So I'll show you. In fact, I've got a script that, so what I'm gonna do, just kind of so you guys know, is at the end of tomorrow, I'm gonna have you send me an email if you want me to send you all the scripts and stuff that aren't in the book, and then I'll send those to you via email. So I'll give you my email address and stuff tomorrow.
Last question.
What's that?
I have a question.
Okay.
What did you do before this, before real estate?
I worked for a bank.
Oh, okay.
Russ,
Yeah,
do you have another book?
I think so. And tell me your name. Liz, okay, Russ.
Thank you,
So
Russ.
I worked at a bank. Why do you ask?
Because, like me, I don't have any sales experience.
Oh.
No sales background.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So I worked at a bank, so I was in their research and adjustments department, so I wasn't doing sales. But here's what I will tell you. You do have sales experience. You spent your whole life as a kid trying to sell your parents to buy you stuff. So you've been selling all your life. All of us are. All of us have been spent our whole life selling. And it's trying to sell our parents when we were kids to buy us stuff, to let us stay out late, to all of those. So you really do have sales experience. You just don't recognize it, right? Okay. So what questions? One of these days you guys are going to have one
I have a question,
for me. Okay, good.
but you might say that we'll discuss this later, but.
That's why you guys don't have questions, right?
Okay, so if I'm at a listing appointment and I suggest a price to list their home for, and this is hypothetical, and so somebody buys the house for, say, $514,000, and it did not appraise for that price, I know it's gonna be an issue. What happens?
I'm not fully sure I understand what your question is. What happens
So,
when it
as
doesn't
for-
appraise, or what?
If it doesn't appraise at 514,
Okay.
so will escrow fall through? What's gonna happen?
Okay. Yeah, so what's one of two or three things is gonna have to happen. So either the buyer's gonna have to bring in the difference in cash. So let's say it appraised for 5 versus 514. The buyer could just bring in the extra $14,000 in cash. Or if it doesn't appraise, then the seller could agree to reduce the price down to that price. Or it could fall through. Or you could meet in the middle somewhere. Maybe the buyer says, well, I'll bring in $7,000, but you have to reduce the price by $7,000. So,
Good to know.
yeah, my sister, this is going back a number of years now, but my sister bought a house that was a for sale by owner, and it didn't appraise. And she called me and said, what should I do? And I said, don't buy the house. Like, tell the seller, reduce your price, because that's all it's worth. And he wouldn't. He just said, nope, sorry. And so my sister said, I'm gonna just take in the difference, I'll pay the difference in cash. And I told her, like, don't do that, that's dumb. But at the end of the day, really, she wanted the house bad enough. It was in an area that she wanted, it was like perfect for her. She paid the extra, and at the time, I was like, that's dumb, why would you do that? Almost like what I was telling you guys earlier about my neighbor friend that was like, don't buy the house, it's on that busy road there. But now it's been like, and I don't remember what she paid for the house, but what it's worth now is it's like that little bit of a difference really is so insignificant now, because it was the house she wanted, and she still has now a ton of equity in it because it's gone up so much in value to where it's like, was it really that big of a deal that she brought in? So like, to some extent, may have to, this is where being a salesperson is, you have to help your clients see that, like, look, if you plan on being there for a while and you love the house, like that $10,000 is probably not gonna make a difference if it's the house you want. So, yeah.
I had an experience like that, well, it's helped me several times. We just we had it reappraised, it was a $40,000 difference.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That's another
and,
option.
you know, you get these appraisers and they're just paid per appraisal, the banks order whoever, Yahoo comes out. The guy had comps from the valley, and we're Simi Valley,
Yeah,
so we kind of fought it. I wrote the comp, I had the seller write every single upgrade, because they had over $60,000 in upgrades and all their receipts. And the buyers really wanted it, we were on the listing side, and we told the buyer's agent, look, if they really want it and we know it's gonna appraise at $599, that's what the last one sold for and ours has more, will the buyers pay for the new appraisal? And they said, yes. We got our appraised, and it actually appraised for $610 as opposed to $599, when it was $540 it appraised for originally, or $550 it was. So we ended up selling it, but you gotta you gotta question that, because these appraisers, they don't care.
yeah, so yeah, that is the other option,
Yeah.
is sometimes you can go get another appraisal
Yeah.
done and get another opinion, so. And sometimes even with the current appraiser, you can say, hey, let me send you the comps that I feel like justify the price. And depending on the appraiser, if they're a jerk, they will just, no, I know what I'm doing. But if not, they may say, yeah, I'll take a look at yours, and maybe they look at it and say, yeah, I can see why that, I'll bump it up a little, so. Anyway. Cool, good question. What else? All right, are you starting to notice something that I've been doing to you all week that you didn't notice, that maybe now, since I'm starting to train you in it? Did you notice what I just barely said? What else?
No.
I've been doing that to you guys all week, which is part of this. I've been using it on you all week. The stuff that now I'm gonna training you in is things that I've been using on you all week of asking you, all right, what else? I'm hypnotized, yeah, that's right. So, okay. So, no other questions? Okay, so then I have a question for you guys. So, right before we had gone to lunch, a little bit before we went to lunch, in Utah, George was doing doing one of the sales meetings there, and he was gonna do some live calling. Well, and they recorded it on YouTube. So are you guys interested? Do you want to listen to, he's gonna do a call to a for sale by owner, so you can listen to him.
Yeah.
Do you guys wanna do that? Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna pull that down. So we're gonna do a little bit of a pause from what we're talking about right now. And I'll pull that up, let you guys listen to it. See what happens here.
Hello, I'm calling about the home for sale. Is this?
Oh, okay, I'll wait till it's. So he's calling it for sale by owner. That's what he's calling it.
Like a real for sale by owner?
Like a real for sale by owner. Is it on? Okay.
The owner?
This is Jenny. I'm helping my father sell it. Who's this?
Okay, Jane. Hey, this is George Morris, local real estate agent with Century 21. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Hey, I was just calling to set up an appointment with you, to come out and preview the home and spend about 30 minutes with you sharing what we do to get a home sold in today's market. I got my calendar open here, and I was just wondering what usually works better for you, the afternoons or evenings?
I'm not interested in signing up right at the moment.
Okay?
If you have a buyer that you'd like to bring by, we can talk then. Otherwise, I'm happy to pay the 3%. The specs are listed, and if you're interested, come on by. Otherwise, I'm not wanting to sign up.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, if I were you, I'd feel the same way too, especially, how long has the home been on the
Okay,
market?
now pause. I gotta stop it. Remember what we talked about yesterday? If I were you, I'd feel the same way too. Notice, he's using the empathy with them of, hey, if I were you, I'd feel that same way too. Most agents though want to jump into first, no, let me tell you why we should get together. So by first saying, hey, if I were you, I'd feel the same way too, it has them kind of go, oh, okay, good. Like you're making them right.
Market?
A couple days.
Oh, just a couple of days. Good for you. So now share with me, so you mentioned that you're willing to pay a partial commission, a 3% commission?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and that for me, when I always hear that, is that's the very reason we should get together for two reasons. One, if you like what I have to offer and share with you very quickly, great. If not, you'll expose your home to a top agent who sells a ton of property. And, the worst thing that happens is you expose your home to that top agent, to that top company who sells a ton of property. And either way you win. Does that make sense?
It does. Do you not have a buyer at the moment?
You know what, that's a great,
Interested for a property like mine?
well, in fairness,
Now, remember, I kind of said to you guys yesterday, to some extent, this almost becomes, I didn't say it this way, but to some extent, this phone call becomes a who's better? Who's gonna be better on the phone? Them at getting rid of you or you getting the appointment? And notice what happened when he's like, well, wouldn't it make sense to like expose your property to a guy that sells a lot of real estate? Well, yeah. Okay, well then let's get together. And she's like,
What do I do?
yeah, it was kind of like, he's better than me on the phone. So kind of just pay
At least
attention.
she's thinking,
Yeah.
should I, should I not?
Yeah, now, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I only found where he started the phone call. I have zero knowledge where it's gonna go, but let's see.
with the number of homes that we sell as an organization, and truly being truthful back to you, the answer is yes. But the reality is that the only way I can ultimately know if I have a buyer for your home is to see the home, review it, and at the same time, of course, I'd love to share a thought or two with you about what we do to get homes sold. But the worst thing, just to give you perspective, Century 21, just across the Wasatch Front, will sell over 7,000 different properties, and 60% of those are buyers. So the answer to your question is, are there buyers? The answer is, heavens yes. And so that's part of what I would recommend is taking a look at it. Look, taking completely off the table of whether we work together or not, I always say that the worst thing that happens is exposure. And in fairness to you, the more you expose it, the better chance you have of selling it.
Correct.
So are you open to me spending about 15 or 20 minutes and previewing the property just very quickly?
I will, well, you'll have to get back with me in like a week. Today's my only day off, and
Okay.
I'm up to my neck in to-dos.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, now notice, it's like, honestly, if you look at this as like a sparring match, it's kind of like he's showing, look how good I am, and she's like, okay, well, she's just throwing out the next, like, okay, well then let me try this one. I don't have time to, like, notice what's going on. Which is really kind of another way of still saying what I was telling you guys, connect, create value, close, is he keeps creating value, but then she's still kind of trying to resist it. So it's a matter of, can he come up with the value to get her to say yes?
Well,
Call me in a week if you wish.
yeah, and I'm absolutely more than happy to call you in a week. Tell me just a little bit about the home. How many bedrooms and bathrooms? Because I don't have the ad right in front of me either.
It is a multi-level, so you walk in and there's a kitchen and living room, and then you go upstairs to 2 bedrooms and a full bathroom, or you go downstairs to a family room, and then down another set of stairs. So it's a multi-level, 3 bedrooms actually, because there's one downstairs.
Nice. And then you're asking $348 for it right now?
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, share with me just very quickly. Tell me a little bit about just the. So you had it on the market for a couple days. I'm sure you've been inundated with every realtor known to mankind, and which I apologize for that. I know that's always not easy to have happen. But
So, he's empathizing with her again.
what's been the experience so far of just actual buyers looking at the property?
No one wants to bring a buyer by, they all want to sign up, which is a little discouraging for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I think that the proof for the pudding is, if you're interested in the property, it's just about signing it up, it's about bringing a buyer by.
Sure.
So.
Well, one of the things I would love to share with you is just some of the exclusive strategies and programs that we do use, which I know a lot of people will share those things with you. But at the same time, look, the obviously, you're out sometime before you're gonna make an ultimate decision to whether you're gonna work with an agent or not work with an agent from a listing standpoint, but the best thing to get, right, pardon?
I just somebody walking by.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say that the worst thing again that happens is we preview the property and just working with the number of buyers that we do as an organization, you know, that's the best chance of getting the property sold. Here's what I promise you. You're never gonna feel from me some crazy, you know, forceful type of approach to the business. If it I mean, look, I was jokingly, and it's kind of a little tongue in cheek, but I'm not trying to show up at your home trying to make your life worse. And I'm also not trying to show up at your home to try to take advantage of a situation on a home that you could simply just sell on your own. It's always the case of, can we help you sell it for the most money? Could we help you put more money into your pocket? Could we help it be a better experience for you? But even if it doesn't work out, you know, with the number of homes that we sell, you're gonna win from that opportunity anyway. And frankly, you're in our backyard. Our main offices are right here in Cottonwood Heights. And so it probably would serve you very well to at least have someone who's previewed the home, look at the home, understand what you're trying to accomplish, and if the future holds to where we could do something together, if it hasn't sold, what we hope is just to be one of the choices that you consider. Does that sound fair enough?
That sounds fair.
Okay. So I can call you, how about this, is we just, you know, this time is money, we're moving into a different market, rates of.
I think he's gonna give up right here. I hope he doesn't. Oh.
I'll never know.
Yeah, well, they're never gonna know now. What happened?
It sounds to me like he's got her.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
that's what I was gonna say. He's pretty much got her, but then it started to sound like right there he was gonna say, let's do this, let's. What the heck?
Well, maybe he didn't want to pressure because she said a week, so maybe he said we'll meet tomorrow.
I don't know, let me see if I can get back to it.
We'll switch off.
Shoot, I wasn't paying attention right now.
So, and I work retail, so the hours are
Oh, wow.
crappy.
And where do you work? What do you do?
We haven't heard this
No,
yet.
we haven't heard this
Okay,
yet.
so let me back up.
You're gonna win from that opportunity anyway. And frankly, you're in our backyard. Our main offices are right here in Cottonwood Heights. And so it probably would serve you very well to at least have someone who's previewed the home, look at the home, understand what you're trying to accomplish, and if the future holds to where we could do something together, if it hasn't sold, what we hope is just to be one of the choices that you consider. Does that sound fair enough?
That sounds fair.
Okay. So I can call you, but how about this, is we just, this time is money, we're moving into a different market, rates have risen just a little bit. What does your schedule look like at the end of this week? Maybe a Thursday or Friday for like 15 minutes? It doesn't matter whether it's morning, afternoons, or evening, anything will work.
Well, I work full-time, so, and I work retail, so the hours are
Oh, wow.
crappy.
And where do you work? What do you do?
Well, I just work retail.
Okay.
If you could call me Friday, call me.
Well, can we do this?
It will be on Friday.
Okay, I will. How about, what was your name? It's Jenny?
Yeah.
So Jenny, can we set up a tentative appointment and then I can call you on Friday to confirm that? Just because I'm one of those guys who's prospecting nonstop and calling people nonstop and trying to, you know?
No, because I have a lot on my plate.
Sure.
Cause I don't know what else to
You're
say.
welcome to call me on Friday
Okay.
and see if we can set up an appointment
Okay.
for possibly that evening. I have a lot on my plate, so I just have to leave it if I go.
Sure. Well, I was gonna say, Jenny, it sounds like you may be too busy to sell a house. That,
Might be the reality.
which is tough, I know. So, now you mentioned you're helping your father. Is the home, are you living in a home, are you occupying the home, or is it a home that is an investment, or is it? Okay, fair enough. And then in regards to just the price, how did you guys happen to determine the sales price?
Research.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So did you have an actual appraisal, or was it more from other analysis from others?
Just my own work.
Okay.
Okay, I need to go.
Okay.
I can't talk to you longer.
Okay, so Jenny, if we meet, you're thinking on Friday evening is a possibility?
I'm thinking,
Maybe early evening?
call me Friday, and I get my first break. Or noon.
Okay,
Call, leave a message, and I'll see if I can call you back.
okay,
I'm not available until 7:30.
okay. And then what about the possibilities of Saturday morning? Are you gonna be working?
I actually don't know my schedule that far out.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Hey Jenny, just, I know you're gonna be inundated with a number of other calls. Is this the best number to reach you on, or is another, a better number?
This is the best number.
Okay. And for you, just very quickly, what do you think would have to happen for you to consider working with a real estate agent?
Not have any bites on it.
Okay, okay,
Any bites, so
okay. And
I'm happy with where I am.
sure, you bet. And just in relationship to an additional 3% on that sales price, I mean, it sounds like if we were able to just even help you earn another $10,000 or $15,000 on the sale of the property, but not have it cost you any additional money, if that was even possible. I haven't done the research on the property yet. But would that be something that you would consider if you could get all that you needed out of it economically and at the same time?
Okay, I don't want to, I can't talk anymore.
Okay.
So our conversation's done.
All right. Well, Jenny, I appreciate it. I'm gonna call you on Friday at noon, and then we'll see where that takes us.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks so much. All right. Well, there you go. Well, you did it. But, I have to tell you, I probably would be on that one, just the situation. If it were me, I would be very assertive on that deal. And what I mean by that is, man, if it's me, I'm gonna be going, knocking the door. I'm gonna probably even go, even though it's vacant, I'd probably drop by it. I'd take a picture of it. I'd send her a text. I'd probably say, hey, I dropped by your property. Remember me? We talked about it. You had to go real quick. And I can tell that if I just am relentless on my lead follow-up on that lead, is that I have a really good chance of taking that listing.
It's just too busy.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
happens if you had a buyer today?
yeah,
What would you do?
right, yeah.
So then one thing I would have maybe added in there is that you taught years ago, maybe you don't remember this. But
If it was good, I will.
Oh, yeah, so it would have been, hey, okay, so you can't meet till Friday, well, let's do this, I'll actually be in the area.
That's
Between
good.
now and then, I can do some research on the
All right,
property.
I didn't do that.
Apply the numbers, and then if you're
You guys
okay with
wanna hear more of
I'll
this?
finish and share with you what I have.
Yeah,
On Friday,
I
exactly.
love that.
And then that gives you some time on the market, that gives me some time to do research, and then we can kind of meet at that time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I really believe, I mean, we should keep track of that someone should, Matt, you wanna take that and like be relentless on it? Have you ever called them?
I called her twice. I talked to her, at noon yesterday and last night, but I couldn't get an appointment either.
So I would, if it were me, I really would. I would just do everything I can to somehow get connected to her. I would send a text, I would drop by the property, probably send a quick shot of the property. I mean, it's within probably 5 minutes of here.
And she has no pictures of the inside posted, so it's,
Yeah.
it's an older home.
Yeah, so I would really make the effort to do that. And then, as she has said, she'll work, and again, all this is like, sometimes I used to draw this up here on a piece of paper or on the board. But look, there's a bus, and I call it the FISBO bus, and there's a stop sign. She's gonna get off. And frankly, it's whoever's there at that moment, at that time, is who's gonna get the listing. So the reality is the majority of things like this will come because of the lead follow-up from that standpoint. And I would just do everything I can to get a hold of her. So if others of you have called her, man, just get in front of her somehow, some way. And again, she's been there, 2-3 days then?
Yeah.
So in 2, 3, 4 more days, she's gonna be like, okay, I've had enough. And she will. And it's gonna be someone who got a hold of her, was there at the right moment, at the right time, that she connected with, that she says, okay, enough.
Sounds like she's there.
Yeah, I mean, she's,
All right, good? All right. Which now, if you want to go listen to more of that, if you just go to YouTube and search Century 21 Everest Training, then you could listen, he started the training by writing all this stuff on the board and talking about, some skill stuff. So if you want to go back and watch it, just do, YouTube Century 21 Everest Training. It'll bring up the live stream, and then it's the one, it was just today, it'll show us base camp right here and streamed 3 hours ago. So, Oh, I'm thinking I'm showing it to you guys, not realizing I turned off the, oh, anyway. If you wanna go back and look at it and things, so one of the other things, like our plan in Utah is, we're gonna start doing that at least once a month, where somebody is on doing a live call. So if you keep an eye on that YouTube channel, you'll be able to always see, and you can go back and watch any of the trainings and stuff that we do there, so. All right. So, any thoughts on that? What he did?
There's a real aggressive
Yeah.
side to this.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I guess on the, like with the FISBOs, I guess you have to be. Where just normal door knocking and all that, maybe you're not that aggressive,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's a real aggressive
And-
touch.
Yeah, now, I wanna, the reason I say, why did you say that, is I'll hit on a couple of things first. Now, part of it is, remember this, that we talked about the other day, is there's 3 hurdles you gotta get over. Do they wanna sell? Will they use an agent, and is it you?
Yeah.
So part of when you say that is, with a for sale by, if you're just out randomly knocking on doors, we already talked about before, the chances that they're gonna be doing something, that they're selling their house, is not great for every door you knock on. But a for sale by owner, what are the chances they wanna sell? 100%, that's why they're for sale by owner. So the reason why you're gonna be a little more aggressive on those ones is because we already know they wanna sell. So now we just gotta get them to be willing to use an agent and have it be you. Now, but with that, when you say there's an aggressive side to this, that's one of the things I wanted to point out. How aggressive was George?
Very, to me.
Really?
Yeah, kind of medium.
I
But-
would say it was more relentless than aggressive.
That's what I was gonna say, is I would agree more of the relentless, meaning he kept trying, he didn't quit, but was he being a jerk, pushy salesperson?
Oh, no.
That's more, I guess, what I
He
was meaning.
wasn't mean, but I
No.
would say he was kind of pushy.
Yeah,
I guess the relentless.
relentless is probably the better word.
Yeah.
I just think he was trying to find out more information and what she was looking for, so he was asking kind of open-ended questions, but then he was also sympathizing with it, saying, yeah, I get it, and I understand.
Yeah, so on that part of it, remember I told you guys yesterday, you have to connect, you gotta create value, and you gotta close. Now, how well did you think he did on connecting?
But she didn't hang up.
Yeah.
So she didn't, but for me, listening to it, here's what I would say, is I don't feel like he got connected as well with her. Now, I think part of that was her doing, meaning he was trying to, but she had her, she was being very guarded. And part of why I say that, how you know, is when they start saying what she said, which is, oh, I gotta go.
Right,
Like,
she was one and done.
that was just, that's the I gotta go, I've got a meeting, I'm just walking into a meeting, I just need to get off the phone. Usually that's their nice way of saying, I don't feel any connection to you. That's a good segue into what we are talking about right now. But I would say he was doing a good job of creating value, which is the
Yes.
only reason she was staying on the phone,
Yes.
is because he was creating value. But I feel like, and I'm not saying that it's possible to have connected with her, because it may not have been. Her guard was just up so much. But that's the only thing I think that I would say that would have made a difference of him getting an appointment, is if he could have connected with her a little better.
You know, in the conversation, his voice was tremendously stronger than her voice.
What do you mean?
He was loud,
Oh.
louder than she was.
Forceful.
So if he had toned his
Yeah,
voice
maybe.
down an octave or two,
Yeah, that's a
he
very
might have
good point.
connected a little bit better.
That could have, yeah, absolutely, thank you. Good. Okay, good, so now, talking about that connection, let's go back to what we were talking about before lunch. So, what's the purpose of us doing needs analysis? To cause crystallization, because why? Why is it important that they crystallize? Okay, good, and? Because they're not gonna buy. Nobody's gonna buy until they crystallize.
Right.
Or if it's a seller list, but they're not going to buy from you, meaning buy your services, until they have crystallized. So we've gotta get them to crystallize. Until they crystallize, it's not gonna happen. So the tool number 1 that we talked about is designed to getting them to picture. So remember, what we're trying to do is get them pictures, decisions, and feelings to all come together. When that happens, crystallization will occur. So we're trying to create or cause this crystallization. So what we're going to do is we're going to start that with a directive. Describe for me your ideal home. They are then going to start describing their ideal home. You're going to say, what else? Keep going, tell me more, until they say that's about it. Once they say that's about it, then you're going to look at your notes that you've written down based on what they said to make sure, did I get a lot of detail on these things? Now, in the event, so we were talking right before lunch of, like, what do you do, and you brought up the person, what do you do with the person that says, describe for me your ideal home, they say 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, big backyard. Okay, what else? That's it. Now, if they said that's it, watch what happens. So, do that with me, Ed. Describe for me your ideal home. Just bullet points.
4 bedroom, 3 bath, large family room, fireplace, gas fireplace, large kitchen, gourmet kitchen,
Okay, and then say that.
and that's it.
Okay, so what else? Say that's it.
That's it.
See, I mean, if that's what they do, what's going to happen if I go, well, no, keep going? What are they going to do? They're going to be frustrated, like, are you not listening to me? I said that's it. So once they say that's it, that's it. So that's the reason we do this second pass. So if he said 4 bedrooms, however many baths, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to write it down. Then I'm going to go back and go, and so instead of frustrating them by, well, what else, what else? I'm going to say, okay, so Ed, you mentioned 4 bedrooms. Tell me more about the 4 bedrooms. And then he's going to say whatever, well, I need 1 for me, 1 for my kid, 1 for an office, 1 for a craft room, and that's it. Okay, well, tell me more. No, that's it. Okay. And then you also mentioned 3 baths. Tell me about the baths. So does that make sense what I'm saying? So you're just going to keep hitting, you're going to do 1 pass or 2, whatever it takes to try to get information. Following? Okay. Now that I've done that, then I'm going to have them rank them. Because in the beginning, when you're first dealing with somebody and they start telling you about the house, in the beginning, everything is important. But as you get them describing it and telling you, that's why we're doing this, trying to get all of this information from them, is the more information they give you, think of it as like in the beginning it's all important, but the more they talk, some things are going to become really important and other things are going to not be so much. Meaning, don't be surprised that, and I don't think this would happen with Laura, but if I said, describe for me your ideal home, and she starts talking about the kitchen, like, don't be surprised when they give you all this detail, and then when you come to the rank and I say, so what are the 2 or 3 most important things that we've talked about? It's funny how they may have talked a ton about the kitchen, but then when you say, give me the 2 or 3 most important, they don't even bring it up. Which is the point of this is, remember I've been saying all day, is it okay if we let them buy the house they want instead of the one you think they should buy? That's what I mean. Just because they talk a lot about the kitchen, it might be that when you say, give me the 2 or 3 most important items, it might be that they tell you totally 2 different things than what they spend a lot of time talking about. Is that okay? Of course, because who's in charge? They are. Your job is to what? Lead. So you're there to lead them, but they get to decide what they're going to bring up. And then you're going to lead it in the direction. Okay, so we're going to have them rank them. Now, on the ranking, let me show you what I mean. Now, we've been talking about language and how important the language that we use is and the words that we use. Now, watch the difference of a result that I'm going to get. So, Laura, let's assume we've been talking about it. So we've talked about all these things on your house. Now, I'm going to do this 2 times, and I want you to watch the difference of the 2. So, what's the most important item?
The kitchen.
Okay, so let's assume this is kitchen. I'm going to say, okay, number 1. What's number 2? Which is the second most important? Just make it up.
The family room.
Okay, and then what's the third most important?
The master bedroom.
Okay, how many did I get?
3.
Why did I get 3?
Because you kept asking 2 out of 3.
Well, in this scenario, I just asked for 3, right? So I got 3. Now watch. Now that is not the way to do it. Instead, this is what you want to do. Now, I may get the same result, but watch this. So, of everything we've talked about, what are the 2 or 3 most important things?
The kitchen and the master bedroom.
Yeah, now notice that. Now notice in this scenario, now I only got, instead of 3, I got 2. Why did I get 2 this time, but I got 3 before?
You asked for 3 and this time you gave her a choice, 2 or 3.
That's right. So now remember, so it's very similar to, should we ask a giraffe or should we ask a turtle? In that by saying, give me the 2 or 3, what are they going to give me?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. And how are they going to decide if they're giving me 2 or 3? Say that louder.
So let's see what's really important.
That's right. It's going to be based on what's really important. If there's 3 that are important, she'll give me 3. If there's really only 2, then she'll give me 2. That's what, so I want to be really clear. On this rank piece, when I'm asking them to rank it, I'm saying, give me the 2 or 3 most important, because I only want 2 or 3. But hopefully, if there's only 2 that are important, then she tells me 2. And because the next step in this is going to be tool number 2. And if there's only, and let me back up. The reason why do we need 2 or 3? I want to make sure you remember. Why do we need 2 or 3? I'll give you a hint. And what about?
We need at least 2 or 3.
They buy in 2s and 3s. So the home they're going to buy is going to have 2 or 3, it's going to meet 2 or 3 benefits. So the reason I'm going to say, give me the 2 or 3, is I want to find out, is the home they're going to buy, does it have to have 2 or 3 benefits in it? Because they buy in 2s and 3s. Make sense? Okay, so I'm going to say, now notice, so once she gave me, well, I didn't do this actually, so let me go back to it. So Laura, give me what are the 2 or 3 most important? You said the kitchen and...
The kitchen and the master bath.
And the master bath. So which one is number 1?
The kitchen.
So now notice that. So first I'm saying give me 2 or 3. Once she has given me 2 or 3, then I'll say which one is number 1. Now if she had given, now sometimes this happens. Watch this. Sometimes they say, you'll say, give me the 2 or 3 most important, and they'll say the kitchen, the master, the backyard. Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe it's not the backyard. Maybe it's the family room. I don't know. Family room and backyard are pretty close. Like, they'll negotiate with themselves. Family, ooh, I'm having a hard time deciding between family room and backyard, like, because they're both really important to me. In which case, what would we do? Yeah, let them have both. Like, because what they're telling me when they do that is, these 2 are the most important, but these 2 are pretty close to each other. The house is either going to have one or the other or both of those, so I'll deal with 4 if I have to. Does that make sense? So part of saying, give me the 2 or 3, is we're kind of saying, like, just tell me what's really important. Does that make sense? So give me the 2 or 3, and if they give me 4, then I'll circle a 4th one and put that as number 4. That works for me. And then I'm going to jump into tool number 2. So questions, are we good? Everybody's good? Okay. So tool number 2 then. Let's see. So tool number 2 is going to be what we call modifiers. Modifiers are who, what, when, where, oops, how. Who, what, when, where, how. Now, what did I leave out of that?
Why?
The why. Now, why would I leave why out? Let me give you a hint. The why is the feelings. So we don't want to ask why, because remember when we were talking earlier, and I said to Ed, so why does having that garage? Why is it that important to you? If you ask why is it important to you, the why question is about like why is it important, which brings the feelings into it. And if you ask that too soon, what happens is they go, well, it's just important, it's just what I want, I just need it. So if you ask it too soon, before they've crystallized, you're not gonna get the answer. What you're gonna get is, oh, it'd be perfect. Well, it's just what I need. That's just what I want. Versus if they've crystallized and you say, well, why do you want it? Now they're either gonna say a benefit word or they're gonna talk around a benefit word. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the modifiers now is the who, what, when, where, how questions. Now, here's what's gonna happen. So let's say that Laura said that the kitchen was number one. So I've got these two items, the kitchen and the master. What I'm going to do, now I'm not gonna physically do this, but for the sake of you guys just seeing it, I'm gonna take box number one here, and what I'm gonna do then is I'm going to start with a directive, and then I'm gonna come to the modifiers. So in essence, think of this, what I just drew right here, this directive modifier, is I'm gonna start with a directive and go to a modifier. So I'm gonna take that box. Now, I'm still gonna just leave it. I'm still gonna leave this, like, let's assume it was this box. I'm still just gonna leave this box right there, but I might, if there's room in there, I'll write more notes in there. If not, I might write in an empty one here, or flip over the page and write on it too, it's fine. But what I'm gonna do, now watch this. Remember, what we're trying to do is cause what? All right, one of you remembers after lunch. I'm a failure. Okay, what is it we're trying to cause?
Crystallization.
That sounds better. Okay, so yeah, if you guys don't answer, I'm turning the air down. I'm making it colder. All right, every time you don't answer, it goes down a degree. How's that? I'm just kidding. So, so we're trying to cause crystallization. Remember that. You gotta keep going back to the whole reason we're doing all this is to cause crystallization. Why?
People don't buy without crystallization.
There you go. Trudy's got it. Because they're not gonna buy until they crystallize. So we gotta cause the crystallization, right? So I'm gonna start with a picture here. So now I'm taking the kitchen and I'm gonna start with a directive. So now watch. So I'm gonna say, Laura, picture yourself, now it's not written up here this way, but listen, how I'm using this is a directive. It's not one of these words, but I'm saying I'm going to give her a directive. So, and think of it as I'm instructing the mind, or I'm leading her mind, right? So, Laura, picture yourself in the kitchen, tell me what you see. Now notice, that's a directive. I'm telling her, I'm taking control of her brain. Picture yourself in the kitchen. Yeah. Picture yourself in the kitchen, tell me what you see. And then what do you think they're going to do?
Start picturing themselves walk around that room.
That's right. They now are, you're telling their mind, go to where you've got all these pictures stored and tell me what you see. So they're going to start now telling you what you see from the pictures. So she's going to start describing the pictures that she sees. Now once she's done that, remember earlier you guys were saying, I want to start asking all these other questions? Now you get to do it. So now what we're going to do then, but here's the key. I get to start asking questions now, but they have to start with who, what, when, where, or how. So I'm going to say, well, let's do it. Are you okay with doing it?
Yeah.
So, picture yourself in the kitchen. Tell me what you see.
A well-lit kitchen that has a lot of natural light.
And I would be writing all this down as she's saying.
Yeah, marble countertops, a apron sink, a Sub-Zero refrigerator.
And same thing. Hey, that's great. Yeah, awesome. What else?
Large island, bar stools around the island, a window that opens up over the sink that goes out into like an open bar.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, what else?
All for 400,000.
What?
All for 4.
That's right.
An indoor barbecue on the range top,
Okay.
double oven. I think that's about
Okay,
it.
good. So now here's what you want to do. Once they've started describing that, what I want to do is now I'm going to ask, and here's the thing. Typically, these modifiers, you need to ask between 5 and 7. This is the point where when I told you guys earlier, you wanna skip the foreplay and go have real estate with your clients? This is what I'm talking about. This is where you've gotta ask the questions. Ask a lot of questions right in here, because see, we've gotten them picturing it, now we gotta ask them the decisions they've made about it. I gotta get them telling me what they've decided about this feature to get the decisions piece of the brain going. Does that make sense? So based on what she has said, what questions could you guys think of that we would want to ask her that would start with who, what, when, where, or how? And then when I say 5 to 7, all 5 could be what questions. It doesn't matter, or 7 or whatever. Now, and the point is, there's not a magic in the number. It's, I ask as many as it takes to get her to crystallize is really what I gotta do. I gotta ask enough questions that she's accessed this part of the brain and this part of the brain so that she's getting ready to crystallize. Does that make sense? And what I'm just telling you is on average it's 5 to 7. There may be times you ask 12 to get them crystallizing. Other times you may only have to ask 2 or 3 and they are there. But just know on average, if you're not asking 5 to 7 on average, you're not asking enough. Okay? So what questions could we, and the ideal way to base your questions is off of what she has already said. So what kind of questions could we ask her about the kitchen that are going to start with who, what, when, where, or how? So we don't want to do any is there, are you, do you, have you, nothing that's going to give her a yes, have her saying yes or no. I don't really want one-word answers. I mean, it's not bad necessarily, but I more want you thinking in terms of what questions could we ask her that would start with this? Jean?
She's looking for double ovens, a big countertop with bar stools. You must entertain a lot. Tell me, do you, well, I guess that's enough.
Yeah, no do you.
Right,
Yeah, no
right.
do you questions.
Maybe copy that.
You gotta turn it into a who,
So,
what, when,
how
where.
often do you have gatherings?
Perfect,
What type
there
of
you go.
gatherings do you have?
Perfect. How often, so you mentioned that. How often do you have people over?
Monthly.
See, now notice, you may still only get a one-word answer, which is fine, but no, it's okay.
Difficult.
But, no, it's fine, but I just want you to make sure you're not saying, well, do you have a lot of people over? Yes. I mean, we want to avoid that. So how often do you have people over?
Monthly, at least once a month.
Okay, and then now what could I ask?
What type of gatherings do you have?
There you go, what type of gatherings?
Just social to get people together.
Okay, what else don't we know?
How many people do you have?
There you go, good. See, now you're getting it. So how many people do you have over? Because how many people are going to be there? What I'm forcing her to do is, what are the decisions she's made about it? How big does it need to be or whatever, you know? So how many people do you have over when you do that?
10 or 12 at a time.
Okay, what else could we ask?
With the double ovens, I don't know, I'm just thinking cooking, that she must cook a lot.
So what type of things do you prepare? I mean,
Perfect, awesome.
And just about everything. I love to cook.
Love to cook. Okay, good. What else can we ask? Now, so here's what you want to be, part of what you want to be listening for when you say to them, hey, picture yourself in the kitchen and tell me what you see. Part of what you want to be looking for is when they are using words like, she said, a lot of light. Did you guys catch when she said, I want to have a lot of
well,
light? Now remember, you know what that means for you, but we don't know what that means for her. And what you can't do is assume that what you think a lot of light is what she thinks a lot of light is. Remember the kitchen story I told you? I need a big kitchen. Well, you're thinking the size of this room, and she was like, no, I just need like this big. That's a big kitchen. See, so when they say stuff like huge windows, okay, so then now what I want to ask is, hey, you mentioned that you wanted huge windows. What size would those windows be? I mean, she didn't mention windows, but you said a lot of light.
you
So
said natural, she
Yeah, all
said
natural.
natural.
yeah, natural light. Okay, so then the assumption is there's probably, so now here's the thing. When I say 5 to 7, you can bounce back and forth between these. So I could say, hey, you mentioned a lot of natural light. Tell me more about that. See, now all I'm doing is now still using modifiers and directives back and forth. So between 5 and 7 of those back and forth here. So I could say, you mentioned a lot of natural light. Tell me more about that.
Just a lot of windows so the sun can shine in.
Okay, so now, Now what do we need to know? Because she said a lot of windows. Well, before you answer, how many is a lot of windows?
Oh,
5,
And I want to hear from everybody. How many is a lot of windows? To you, how many is a lot?
I probably want like a big slider, or like a big expanse of glass.
Okay, but how many is a lot?
A lot would be probably 5.
Okay.
I was thinking a whole wall.
Okay, so okay.
That's what I meant, the whole.
In the kitchen, probably 4.
Okay.
I would say at least 6 in skylights.
Okay.
yeah, about 6 to 8.
Okay.
The whole kitchen wall with the slider as well.
Okay.
At the same time, 6 in, of course, skylight.
Okay, so now we know what it means for us. Now let's find out, because really that's what we need to know. Because just because you find what for you would be a lot of light, she might be in there and be like, geez, like I need to wear sunglasses. Or she might be like, no, like that's still not bright. So when you say a lot of windows, tell me what.
well, my kitchen is as big as this room.
Yeah, now remember that.
Yeah.
So about 10.
So now notice, see, you would have thought, well, I got 4 or 5 windows, that's gonna be good enough. Which, now to some extent, you guys that said the whole wall, that's probably gonna be enough. But notice, are you getting the point though of this? Of what I wanna be doing is, and so I'm just looking for, so you said about 10 windows, so how big, what size would they be?
Oh, gosh, I'm not good at measurements. I don't know, 5 by 10.
Okay, well, even just in relation to like if it was this wall or that, the back or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I want really big windows that even come low to the floor.
Okay. Now, notice what you want to say right there is what? Nothing? It's just, excuse me, just me?
Sounds beautiful.
Well, which is fine to do that, that's totally good. But usually they say something like that. What I get from the agents is they want to go, well, why do you want them to go to the window, to the floor?
All right.
Which the why is not, don't ask why
Oh,
yet here.
don't ask why. Gotcha.
Make sense? That's why I'm bringing that up. Okay, what other questions could we ask about that we don't know that could fall under this? I want to make sure you guys really get the point of this.
Tell me about how big of a kitchen you want, because you're really not saying how big it is.
Okay, that's great. So ask it.
Tell me, how big do you want your kitchen to be?
As big as this room.
Okay. So what else don't we know?
She mentioned the island, so what kind of counter do you want for the island?
So she did mention that actually.
Marble, yeah, marble.
She did say marble, which is fine, but what do we not know about the island?
How big? of
There
an
you go.
area?
How big? So like one of the things we could say is, okay, so describe the layout of the kitchen. Like, okay, I understand the size of this room, but where are things going to be?
Well, I want the island to be the focal point, and when you walk into the kitchen, I want you to be able to.
Now, I wish you guys could see her eyes right now, because what she's doing is what I want her to be doing. So keep going.
Yeah, I was walking around.
She's in her brain, she's walking around the kitchen. Does that make sense? Okay, so keep going.
So you walk in and the island is the focal point, and then when you look in, you see the sink and all the other appliances up against this wall here.
Okay. Now, here's part of how you know you're getting them where you want them to be is when they start doing when she was doing this, when they're picturing it in their mind and they're like, okay, and this would be over here, and this would be up there, and this is down here, and that's over there. I know I'm getting her to do what I want her to be doing here. Does that make sense? She's picturing it, she's telling me about the decisions. Now, there should be a question either you're thinking right now or you're about to. So if you have one, ask it. Because there's a question that I know you're either thinking it right now or you're going to be really soon. So if you're not thinking one, as soon as you have one, ask it. Because you're not the only one thinking it. So just know that.
I have a question.
Okay.
This is almost too much detail to me. I'm thinking like if I'm a realtor, I don't know that I'd want to know all this because I'm not going to possibly.
This is the question I've been waiting for, by the way.
Satisfy all their needs and wants and desires unless we say, okay, let's go build a custom.
Thank you. That is the question that I've been waiting for you guys to ask.
Yeah, like where are you gonna find that?
That's right. Now, here's the key. Don't get caught up in that, is what I'm going to tell you. Because They're not buying, even though she's describing it in detail, she's not gonna buy probably that. Meaning, I don't have to go find exactly what she's detailing. Does that make sense? And I mean, it probably doesn't make sense to you right now, but what I'm telling you is, what's going on is they buy in 2s and 3s of benefits. So there's 15 benefits, which I haven't given you yet, but there's 15 benefit words. They buy in 2s and 3s of those, and right now, all she's giving me is what in her mind is going to satisfy the benefit she's looking for. So she's not going to buy the feature. I want to be really, really clear on this. She's not going to buy, we don't have to have that exact kitchen. What we do have to have, though, is the benefit that that kitchen provides to her. Now, here's where this becomes really crucial. Because once she has described it and I land on what the benefit word is, when we land on what the benefit of that kitchen is to her, I'm never going to talk about the features. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's not 100% true. But I'm going to focus on the benefit, not the features. Because she's going to buy the feature. Now, here's the thing. Remember, go back to where I started today telling you guys about the home that I'm in. Prior to me buying it, when I was asked, when I was being trained on this, so I hadn't bought the house, but within a year of being trained in this is when I went and bought my house. And when I sat down and role-played this, and I mean, it was role play, but it was real, of describe for me your ideal home. And I said, I want a 2-story on 1 acre, and like I gave detail of that and having a pool in the basement. But notice, I bought a house that's on a 1/4 acre that doesn't have a pool in the basement because it still met the benefits I was looking for. They're going to buy the benefit. They're not going to buy the feature. Meaning, there's multiple ways. So we started today with me saying to you guys, I want to buy a home high on a hill with a view of the city lights. But then I said, I ended up buying a home tucked away in a canyon that's surrounded by nothing but trees. Now, so for you two, since you weren't here, I'm going to pause for a second with you guys. I want to say what we said earlier to bring you guys up to speed. Have you ever said before, or have you heard someone say, but I would guess you both said it, buyers are liars?
Oh, yeah.
Is it true?
Oh, yeah.
See? It's actually not true. And that's where we started this whole day. Is really, the problem is they communicate one thing when they mean something else. So they say they want a home high on a hill with a view of the city lights, but what they really want is one of these 15 benefit words. And if they find a house that meets the whole thing, when we say buyers are liars, what we're getting at, or what we don't understand, let me say it that way. What we don't understand is they're not buying the feature. See, we get caught up in buyers are liars because when they give us a feature, we think that's what they really want, and then they go buy something else that doesn't have that feature. And the reason they'll go buy the one that doesn't have the feature they described is because it has the benefit. They're buying the benefit, they're not buying the feature. So, I'm going to say this one last way. Features have a price tag, because in essence, that's what Laura just said, is what if they can't afford it, or it doesn't exist? Features have a price tag, benefits, there's no price tag. Meaning, you can meet the benefit in any price range. So when they describe this ideal home, the kitchen the size of this, you can find the benefit in every price range. Meaning, if I said to you, I want to have a pool in my backyard, but the price that I qualify for will not allow, there's no houses in that price range that have a pool in the backyard. What would be the benefit to having a pool in your backyard? I mean, you guys know what mine was. What was it? Convenience. Okay, so how could you meet that with a condo?
They have a community.
Okay, how about a mobile home? Okay, what about just a house that's not in a house? So it could be a community pool still, or what? Thank you. That's the other. See, if convenience is what they're looking for with the pool, it might be that it's right next to a gym that has a swimming pool that they can go swim in. See, it doesn't matter. This is going to keep surfacing in your head over and over and over again as we talk today. Realize that. It's gonna keep surfacing in your head of, yeah, but what if they can't afford it? Or what if we can't find the house that has that? Don't worry. Like, and ask it again. Keep asking it. When you have the question, keep asking, yeah, but what if? Because I'm gonna answer it the same way, unfortunately, but the benefits don't have a price associated with them. You can meet the benefit in every price range. So you don't have to worry if they describe this house that's just, whoa, and then they can only afford $400,000. The good news is you can meet the benefit in every price range. So just like I wanted a 1 acre lot and I'm on a 1/4 acre. Well, but right outside of my backyard is a big park. So it's even better than 1 acre because I don't have to take care of it, but I can still use the park. Does that make sense? So the benefits you can meet in every price range. So, okay, I want to finish this up and then we'll come back and I'll give you the 15 benefits. What questions do you have? Do you understand this? Like, what other questions, because I can think of a few others that we could ask her about this kitchen that are who, what, when, where, how questions. What other things do we not know about it or that would be helpful to have a discussion about? Now, part of this actually, sorry, I know I keep asking questions and I keep talking, so sorry, I'll stop. But part of it is think about, like when we talked about with Ed, about he wanted a 3-car garage. Well, what are you going to do with a 3-car garage? Well, 2 for the cars and 1 for the workshop. Well, so a perfect question if that on the modifiers would be, what I would say is, hey Ed, so what would your thoughts be, which I did ask this already, you guys heard me, but what would your thoughts be if we found only a 2-car garage but it had a workshop like in a shed or a separate part of the house?
Oh, that'd be perfect.
See, part of what I'm doing with these modifiers is I'm making my job easier. Like, meaning when you start to feel like, holy cow, they're so detailed in this that I'm never going to be able to find it. Part of what you can do is then you can jump in and use, well, so what would your feelings be if, so watch. What would your feelings be, Laura, if we found a kitchen that like had all of that layout and stuff, but it was only half the size of this?
Yeah, I would be willing to look at it.
See, so that's part of what we're going to do with this is we want to start asking, but we want to do it in that type of a way. Like, so what would your feelings be if we found this? Or what would your attitude be about that? If I came up with, if we, like, you can start asking like some questions of that. Does that make sense? Okay, so what other questions do we not know about her kitchen that we could still ask? Because there's some more.
What type of flooring?
Perfect. What type of flooring would it have?
Travertine.
Okay, good. Yeah, excellent. That one's always a question you can ask about a feature in the house. Like, so, okay, well, what will the flooring be? What will the colors be? What type of cabinets? So, does that make sense? Like, what kind of cabinets are they going to be? How many cabinets?
What if the barbecue is, you have a built-in kitchen outside? Like, you know what I mean, like ovens outside?
Uh-huh.
You know, a built-in barbecue with an oven outside, would that satisfy some of the requirements?
So
She
good.
said
Now,
a
so
barbecue.
yeah. So don't. I love what you're going, but instead of saying would that satisfy,
Oh.
do it as more of a. So what would your feelings
What
be
would your
about,
feelings about having a built-in barbecue and oven outside?
or how would you feel?
How
or
do you-
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would look at that.
Okay. Yeah, it's great. What else?
Pantry, walk-in pantry.
Yeah. Tell me about what storage would you have or whatever.
Yeah, a large walk-in pantry.
Okay. And so how when you say large, see anytime you hear large a lot,
Yeah,
big,
it's relative.
then you just want to say okay. So
How
what's
big?
large?
Right. About the size of that corner right there.
Okay. Perfect. Now, what else do we not know?
Who else in the family might use that?
Perfect. Who else is
Yeah.
going to use it?
No one.
Stay out. So, and that I would have fun with it. I'd be like, so we want to post like, keep out, right? No trespassing, right? Okay. So who else would use the kitchen?
No one.
Okay, you were joking. Okay. So what else don't we know? But that's perfect. Like, but if she did say other people were going to use it, then you're going to say, all right, well, what are they going to be doing? What else don't we know?
Gas, electric, stove.
Okay, yeah, so what type, how I would ask that though is, tell me about the appliances.
Gas.
And then at that point, they'll start to, okay, what else, what other appliances? And they're gonna tell you all about that. What else don't we know? There's at least one more.
Where would you want it located in the house?
Perfect, that's the one I was waiting for, is where would it be in relation to the rest of the house?
Well, I want the open floor plan, so once you walk into the main living area, I want it right off of that room.
Okay, perfect. So are you guys following? Can you see how you could ask easily 5 to 7? If you'll really get them, and the key thing, I have to keep coming back to this, the whole point of this is to get them picturing what are the decisions they've made. Picturing it, what are the decisions they've made? Picturing it, what are the decisions they've made? Now, once I've done that, then what's going to happen, trying to keep my color coordination over here, is I'm going to come over here to tool number 3. So this one we already said, this one we're using tool number 2 to get to this. Now I'm going to use tool number 3. Okay? Tool number 3 is what I call the tag. Don't ask me why, because I don't know why we call it tag. Like I'm writing it down going, why do we call it tag? I guess tag you're it, or like you're going to tag it as, you're going to tag this feature, I guess. Like we're putting a tag on it. Does that make sense? Okay. So the tag is going to be, what does blank mean to you? Or we can say, why is blank important? Okay. So, now this is very disjointed, but we're going to try it and see what happens. So, Laura, let's assume we've talked about all that, and we've been talking, you've described all that, and she's picturing it now, because when they start doing this stuff, oh, this is going to be here, that's there, like you know you've gotten them where you need them to get to. So now let's try it. So Laura, what does having that kitchen that you just described, what does having that mean to you?
Laughter, family, good times, memories.
Okay, perfect. Now here's what I would do. Now what's going to happen once we hit to that tag? What's then going to happen is I'm either going to come over here and I'm going to summarize what she said, or she's going to actually, I call it closed end. One of two things. Either she's going to I'm going to summarize. If she's either going to say a benefit word or she's going to talk around one. And if she says the benefit word, I'll skip the summary and just drop right down to the sometimes I'll call this the key need. So if she says the benefit word, I'll skip to that and just say, okay, so what we're looking for then in the kitchen is blank. But if she didn't say a benefit word, she talked around one, I'm going to then summarize it. So say that again. So what does having that kitchen mean to you?
Laughter, friendship, having people over, memories.
Okay, so what if you had to sum that up in one word, what would you call it? Could be.
Relationships.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's in it. Early on, now remember, when I did this before with her, I kind of shorthanded, we went to entertainment, but as we've gotten into it, I was thinking, I'm not sure, she likes to entertain, but for a different reason. It's not about the entertainment, it's about, so if you had to sum it up in one word, and relationships is in the right direction, but what would you call it?
Well, she said family, friendship.
So what would we call
Just
it?
creating memories.
Okay, in one word. Love. Say it again. Love. Love.
You're so smart, too.
He is. He should be on the front row. You should move up to the front row with Carminda, huh? That's where the smart people sit, right? All right.
Take my spots.
You pick your chance. All right. So what I would want to do then is summarize that. So now watch. And then this is where, here's the key. Remember we talked about body language yesterday? When I ask summarize this, you've got to really watch their face to see how they respond to it. So let me show you what I mean. So So it sounds like what I hear you saying, so that's the summarize. So if I understand you correctly, it sounds like what we're looking for in this kitchen is a place that you can create some memories and really kind of show your friends and family how much you love them.
Correct.
See, what I'm looking for is a yes. If you get this, now watch closely. If you get this, you miss it. Like if they give you a, but that's a micro expression that you want to watch for, because if they go, and it'll just be for a flash that they go, because it's kind of like, what? Like, well, watch. Let me show you what I mean. So if I understand you, of course you guys can't see. Maybe you should, if you want to get up and see her face, you can. So if I understand you correctly, what you're looking for in this kitchen is someplace that you can really have a lot of safety. Like and what goes on, what goes on is that it's kind of like, did you really hear, like, how did you get to that? Now, let me give you an example. There was one time, it was actually kitchen, that I had this lady that I was taking through this process, and I said, so what does having that kitchen mean to you? It was exactly the kitchen. And I said, what does having it mean to you? And I can't remember, I wish I could remember what she said. But basically what she was saying was like, it sounded like she was talking about privacy. Because she's like, it's just kind of, I can get away and I can, just be in my own thoughts and I can blah, blah. And I was like, that's weird. Like I've never had privacy, which is one of the benefit words, be a reason in a kitchen. So I was kind of like, that's weird. But as she was talking, so then I summarized it. And now you gotta watch me when I do this. Because I said to her, I said, so it sounds like, if I understand you correctly, what you're looking for in this kitchen is privacy. And this is what she did. Yeah. But she shook her head no. That's why I was saying you have to be watching. Sometimes people will say, can you do this over the phone? No, because when I said that, I was like, it didn't make sense to me, but it sounded like she was saying privacy. So I said, well, so it sounds like what you're looking for in this kitchen is privacy. And no lie, she was like, yeah. But she just kept shaking her head no. And I said, that's not it, is it? She goes, no. Like, I'm not sure where you got that from. And I said, well, yeah, I don't know either. But so then what I did is you would just try to loop back up here. But what I did is I said, well, I just used this. I said, well, that's not it, is it? She goes, no. And I said, well, then what is it? Well, I mean, like, what is it about that? And then she said whatever it was, and it might have been love or something, but like, it was just weird. So the thing is, don't worry if you summarize it and you're wrong. You just have to watch their reaction. And because their reaction should be, yeah. Like, yeah. And honestly, this is the part where I said, every aha is crystallization. Like, don't be surprised if when you do it that they're like, yeah. Like, almost to them, it's like they just figured it out.
Well, I did that with him.
When he said it?
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, oh, he knew better than I did.
Yeah,
Like,
notice that. Yeah, good job. So
you're a million dollar agent.
yes, you should be on the front row.
Throw the table out of my way.
So yeah, thank you for saying that, because that's just it. Is a lot of times they don't know, but as soon as you do that, they're like, yes, that is what it is. Which is, remember I started this whole thing by saying, sometimes people will say, when somebody says to you, I know what I want, but I don't know how to explain it, I'll know it when I see it. That's what they're saying is, the information is here, it's all in here, I just don't know how to bring it out to tell you what it is. So that's why they say, I'll know it when I see it. Well, we're going to take them through this process that helps them figure it out beforehand. And then it makes it easy. So, like, when you guys are having that little bit of like, well, what if they describe all of this stuff and then it doesn't exist and they have to go build it? Like, the good news is, it's actually the opposite of that. It makes them buying the house so much easier. It doesn't make it harder, it makes it easier. They're more willing to do it because now they've crystallized. Once they crystallize, now, with that being said, once they've crystallized, like, meaning if she's talking about the kitchen and it's got to be light and all that kind of stuff, if I take her in, even though she's crystallized, if I take her into a rundown old kitchen that's dark, is that going to work for you?
No.
Yeah, like that's, so to some extent, like, the more important than the exact layout and everything, probably the most important is that when she goes in, and this is what you wanna do. When I go show her a property, what I'm gonna say is, hey, can you see yourself entertaining, having your family over? Can you see yourself spending time with your family and friends in this kitchen? That's what I'm asking. So I'm not trying to figure out, oh shoot, it doesn't have the exact whatever. Like, oh shoot, it's only got 9 windows instead of 10. Like, the number isn't important. What matters is that there's plenty of natural light, right? So like, even though she told me 10, really for me, it's just, it's gotta have a lot of light. So when I go to it, I've gotta be able to see, okay, like even on the MLS, I could look at pictures and be like, no, I can tell that kitchen's gonna be too dark, it's not gonna work. And I could go to the next house. Does that make sense? But so when we go out there then, I still am not gonna talk about any of the features when we're there. All I'm asking is, can you see yourself spending time with your friends and family in this kitchen? Because I wanna tie it back to the benefit. Does that make sense? I'm tying it, because if she can see her having her family and friends over there and hanging out and spending time together, showing them how much she loves them, she'll buy it. If she walks in and is like, they're not gonna fit. Like if it's 10, that's why we gotta find how many people. You follow me? You liking it or not liking it?
No, it's awesome.
Okay. All right, so go through the benefit words now.
I mean, I was thinking how you could use this tool in other areas of your life.
Oh, yes, thank you. In fact, at lunch, right after you guys had left, Laura brought that up. And I should have started this whole class by telling you, like, you can use this in every aspect of your life, which to some extent, when I told you the story about with Stuart of going and just asking, hey, so what about this? Tell us that. Like, that's all I was doing was this. Hey, so, like, she said her office was in Ojai, and I had never even heard of it at that point. I knew nothing about it. So I was like, oh, so tell me about Ojai. And she started just telling me about it. And I was like, oh, really? Wow. So what this and who that? Like, all I was doing was I started out with a director to get her telling me, and then I just started asking a whole bunch of modifiers. And like I found out that's where Ellen lives, and she runs into her at the store shopping, and like, I found out all kinds of stuff about Ojai that I had never even heard of it before, but just by doing this, you find out a ton. So yes, thank you for bringing that up, because you can use this in every aspect of your life, and so, especially for the guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I'm single, then going on dates.
Yeah, you're like, shoot, where was this? Right? So, and you can, yeah, she's not watching Facebook. Yeah, just remember, it's not about the nail. I keep snagging my sweaters, and I can't figure out why.
I feel like I'm gonna show all the guys, like during footballers. Check this out, guys.
Yeah, you're like, and I'll just know, all you have to say is, man, that's gotta be rough, and you win, right? Okay, all right, so let's go through the benefits here. So, there's 15 benefit words, so I'm gonna see if I can do it without looking at notes.
All right.
Good? All right, here we go. So, entertainment is one. Convenience is one. Those are the ones we have written so far, okay? Next one is comfort. Now, let me explain comfort. Comfort is about creature comfort. So it's about a sense of ease. So it's not necessarily comfortable, because a lot of times that's what people think is that, oh, I want to be, excuse me, a lot of times people think it's like, it's got to be comfortable, but that's not. Comfort is a creature comfort. So like, here's probably the best way I explain it, is at home I have a little Shih Tzu, and although I should say I actually have two. One's 10, the other one's a dog. But but our Shih Tzu, she will jump up on the couch, and then if there's a blanket on the couch, she'll like nudge that blanket with her nose, and then she'll get up there and she'll kind of dance around a little, and then she'll lay down, and then she stands up and she'll turn around, and then she lays down, and then she stands up and lays, but eventually all of a sudden she'll just go, and then she's not moving. Like, that's comfort. Comfort's so like sometimes if they're describing comfort, it'll be the house on the hill with a view of the city lights. Like after a long day of work, I want to go sit out on the patio and just decompress for the day. Like I just want to be able to just relax and just, So it's not comfortable, but think of it as creature comfort. Does that make sense? So comfort is, all right. convenience. So the convenience one is gonna be about ease of use. So comfort is a sense of ease. Convenience is ease of use, or like I want to be close to work. I don't want to have to drive all over. It's kind of like I was saying something to you guys. I think about like I stay at the Marriott that's just over here on Madera and Cochrane, and George and a lot of the other people from Utah, when they come in, we get a corporate rate at the Four Seasons. So it's actually about the same price to stay at the Four Seasons as it is the Courtyard Marriott here. But for me, I stay there over the Four Seasons because it's like I would rather have the convenience of I know I'm 10 minutes and I'm here, or less. Does that make sense? So that's convenience, is the ease of use. Okay, next. What?
I said, can we use the corporate rate at the?
I know, exactly. You probably could, I don't know. So, all right, the next one is going to be safety. Now, safety is about physical safety. Now, here's what I will tell you. This actually doesn't come up very often. Now, meaning you might think that it does, but if you're finding it coming up a lot, it's typically not. And what I mean is this. There's the next one is security. And security, you may want to put in parentheses, is peace of mind. Yeah, so sometimes what will happen is somebody will say they want a gated community, and we will think, well, they want it for their physical safety, but what does having their physical safety do for them is it gives them a sense of security, it gives them peace of mind. So typically safety doesn't come up a lot. It's really usually, if it sounds like they're talking about safety, more times than not, it's really about the peace of mind that they have the safety. So it's more really security. Does that make sense? So safety is one, but I'll tell you it's pretty rare. Most of the time it's going to end up being security. Meaning, like somebody may say, well, I want a fenced yard because if my kids go out in the backyard, I don't want them to run out in the street and get hit by a car. Okay, well, so it's the kid's physical safety, but what does that give the parent? Peace of mind, yeah, security. Now the other thing I'll usually say on this is, when I was a kid growing up, my dad owned a pharmacy. And I remember many times, like we would be sitting down to eat dinner as a family, the phone would ring and he would get up and then hang up and my mom would say, who is that? And he'd say, oh, that was the burglar alarm company. My burglar alarm's going off. I gotta go out to the pharmacy and make sure it's locked up. Why do they, in today's world, do you ever hear them called a burglar alarm? What do we call it? Why do they call it a security system? Number one, it sounds better. But number two, it's tied to these benefit things because it's tied to peace of mind. If you have this, see, if we set a burglar alarm, you think about burglars. But when you say a security system, you think of, oh, it's going to give me peace of mind. So does that make sense? So security is peace of mind. Okay, next. Love. So which we just did an example of that. So love, typically that's going to be somebody saying, hey, I want a place that when the kids come home from school, I can be in the kitchen, cooking dinner or whatever. The kids are sitting at the counter doing their homework and they're working on that and I'm able to help them and I can ask them all about their day and blah, 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 blah. And then, well, what does having that mean? Well, it lets my kids know how important they are to me, and which really is another way of saying it's how I can show my kids how much I love them. Make sense? Okay. Next. Privacy. So privacy is going to be like, it could be the house high on the hill. It could be, I want a lot of trees in the backyard, and why, what is having that backyard like? Well, give me privacy. I can sit out there and I don't have to worry about my neighbors looking in my backyard. Or what. So the home that I'm in now, when it was being built, right after we moved in, so I'm in a 2-story. The neighbors have a 2-story, but even though they have a 2-story, they're master bedrooms on the main level. And right after we had moved in, we were talking to the neighbors the one day, and she was like, oh yeah, we had to run over and like, when your house was being built, we had to come over and look out of your master bedroom because where our master bedroom window is like, looks right down into a window in their master bathroom. And she was like, we had to come over to make sure that like, you couldn't see into our master bathroom, which you could. But, I mean, you can see into it, but it's like, you see through the window and you're seeing like that top part, like you can't see anything. But that would be an example of like privacy. Is I want to make sure that I can get away or whatever. Make sense? So sometimes a master suite might be that for the wife, is like, it's a place that like after the kids are done and in bed, I can go in there and read a book and like nobody's bugging me or whatever, so that could be priced. Okay, let's see. Next, let's do is economy. Economy is about saving money. So if somebody wants, double pane or triple pane windows, and I want the high efficient furnace, or I want, tons of insulation, solar panels, like it's all, those type of things are gonna be about economy. Economy is saving money, okay? And then the next one would be value. What do you think value is about? Making money. Yeah, so economy is about saving money, value is about making money. So usually when that will come into play is, hey, we want to buy a home that we get it a really good deal because we're only going to be here for a couple of years. And we want to make sure that when we sell it, we can make a profit, whatever. Okay, so that would be value. What number are we on? I've heard 9, 10, and 11. So
We're on number 10.
10.
We're gonna be 10.
Oh, okay. So we're on 10. Okay. So let's see. Next one let's do is prestige. And / esteem. So I was prestige or esteem. So those ones really are, it's one, prestige and esteem. Think of it as like heads and tails of a coin kind of thing. So prestige is about how other people see me, esteem is how I see myself. So if they're talking about this big nice house and why do you want to have the house? Well, because on my way home from work, when I pull up, I want to look at the house and be like, yeah, that's why I work so hard, is so I can have this. That's going to be esteem. If they're saying, well, hey, when I have people come over to the house, I want this big nice house because when they pull up, I want them to be like, wow, like you live here? Like, that's prestige. So prestige or esteem are kind of two sides of the coin, but it's just a matter of, is it how they see themselves or how others see them? Either way is fine. So now here's the other thing. On these, especially because I'll give you the next one, they don't have to say the exact word. You don't have to say the exact word. Meaning, like, depending on the person, you may not want to say, oh, so you want this big, beautiful house because you're arrogant. You don't want to be like, you want to show how awesome you are or whatever. So, but you could just say, something along the lines of like, on esteem might be instead of that you would say, hey, so really it sounds like what you're looking for in this home is like, when you get home from work, you want to be like, yeah, this is the reason I worked hard for all this. Like, I deserve it. And they'll, yeah. Does that make sense? Okay.
I was showing property to this couple, and they saw the house. It was a great house. And the reason why they didn't write an offer is because the house next door was a little bit nicer. And the wife told me, she goes, my husband has to have the nicest house on the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, she flat out told me that.
So yeah, but that's a perfect example. If that's one of their benefits, then now you know when you're out looking for, if they told you that, which is crucial to have found out during this process, then you can be like, okay, no, not the nicest house in the street, that one's not gonna work for them, go to the next. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Okay, next. Sex. So Carmen is looking at me like, what? Believe it or not, there are some people that's how they're going to base, that's what's most important to them in the house is going to be sex. So, what?
Where it happens? No, sir.
I think I know what you're talking about.
You think you know what
I've had men say things to me about bathrooms and stuff, because I'm just being really frank.
Yeah, be frank.
And this is what men have told me, like, if the bathroom was convenient, they saw things happening in there. So they wouldn't buy a house or design a room a certain way if it didn't get that need met.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I should have just
So let me give you an example of this. So I at one point I had an agent and I'll tell the same with you guys for this. If you ever really feel like you're struggling with this, same as I told you on the open house, if you feel like you're struggling with this, I'll help you through it. So I had an agent that I had sent that to, that I had said, look, like, if you need help with it, like, schedule an appointment with a client, I'll come in and sit down and listen to you. So this was an agent that was working the Park City market, and so he had scheduled an appointment with one of his clients up there that was looking to buy a house. And what happened was the guy was describing, describe for me your ideal home. He's describing, he talks about the backyard. Okay, tell me more about the backyard. He starts asking questions. So he's asking the guy brings up the hot tub and starts talking about the hot tub, and he's like, okay, well, who's gonna use it? Just me and my wife, and how often? And he was like, whatever, and he was talking and talking and talking. It became clear that what he was talking about, this hot tub, was sex. So now, this is why the previous one on this, that I said, you don't have to actually say the word. So like for me personally, I could tell that's what the guy was describing. Like, I want to have a hot tub, and it's for me and my wife, we're going to spend time out there, and blah, blah, blah. You could tell that's what he really meant. Well, so for me personally, when I said, what does having that mean to you? He was like, oh, just mean that my wife and I can have some time together, and blah, blah, blah. The agent, so for me, I would have said, oh, so it sounds like what you're talking about is a place for you and your wife. I would have said, like some romance or some intimate time together or something like that. But this agent didn't. He goes, well, so it sounds to me like what you're talking about is like you want this hot tub so that you and your wife can have a place to have some great sex. And the guy goes, well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to say that, but yes, that is what it's about. But that is, and I will say it doesn't, I've only actually had it come up that one time in a scenario with a client, but just know it's possible that it comes up. Now, you don't have to say it that way. You could, for me personally, I would just say, oh, so it sounds like what you're talking about with this backyard is a place that you guys can have some romance.
Yeah.
And I would leave it at that. But I would know of the 15 benefit word, that's what he's talking about. Got it?
What
Okay.
kind of place would you show them?
What kind of a place?
I mean, it would, I
A
mean,
hot
it's
tub?
pointing, no, it's.
That's what he wanted, was a hot
No,
tub.
it's pointing to maybe the privacy where they want lots of,
Oh, could be.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Could be. Yeah, it could be tied to privacy, but I would only say it would be the privacy if they were talking about, like, we want to make sure nobody can see, and that kind of stuff. Then's when I would be, but I don't know if you care if anybody's. I'm teasing. Okay, what number we got?
12.
Okay. Like it matters. Like, it's not like these are numbered. Oh yeah, number 12 is this one. All it does is helps me like know how many more do I gotta think of? And it's not like I'm making them up. I probably am not spelling this right because I'm talking, but in fact, aesthetics, is that with an A or an E?
Oh, no.
It's both actually, I think, isn't it? You can't do it either way, A-E or not at all. You know what I mean, right? Okay. I think you can spell it.
Aesthetic.
Let's see what it does.
Oh, it doesn't come up, it said aesthetics.
It said what? Aesthetics?
Aesthetics. It doesn't.
Yeah, A-E-S.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, how do you spell aesthetics?
But it has-
Yeah, it did it that way too. So anyway, you get the point. I'll add an A there. Here's what I always say. If you can't spell a word more than one way, you're just not very creative. So if I ever screw up and have my spelling on it, it's because I'm so creative. Okay? There we go. All right, aesthetics. So the aesthetics of it is going to be just basically how it looks. Typically, if that's what somebody's talking about, they're going to get into great detail of, like, it's got to have this crown molding, and it's got to have the chair rail, and it's got to have, well, in fact, I had one that the person was talking about, okay, my ideal home is going to have, like, it's going to be, like, totally retro of, like, way back in, like, early 1900s. And then they were saying, like, it's going to have, like, those doorknobs where like, there's etching on the doorknob. Like, if they're getting that detailed of describing, like, it's going to have the etching on the doorknob, and it's got, like, the skeleton key that you put in to lock the door. Like, when they start getting that detailed, what they're talking about is the aesthetics of the house. It's like, it's got to have this exact detail of da-da-da-da-da. Does that make sense? So if that's a benefit, is the aesthetics of how it looks. All right. Oops. I'm really good at saying it. Next one, self-actualization. So self-actualization.
think of the self-actualization. A lot of times, somebody may, like with Ed wanting the workshop, it may be, that might be about self-actualization is what they're wanting that for. So think of it, another way of saying it is like self-actualization is like somebody feeling like that's the purpose of my life. Like that's what I was meant to do. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's like tied to a job. It just might be like, I just feel like I'm being who I'm supposed to be or doing what I'm supposed to do when I am working in the shop or something. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, so it's just like they're feeling like that they're doing what they were meant to do. I don't know how else to
Fulfilling
explain.
a purpose.
Yeah.
A purpose in
Yep.
life.
Yep. So it could be that that's what it is on the house of like, I feel like maybe I need an office that I can sit down and write, because when I'm writing is when I feel like I'm, accomplishing what I was supposed to do. And well, what do you do with it? Nothing, but I just feel like it puts me at where I'm at. Okay, what number are we on?
14.
I know, I'm just trying to think what am I missing? I probably should have these in an order that I could be like, oh, okay. No, I know what they are. The last two I know exactly. So the next one's recreation. Recreation, so for me, when I was telling you about I wanted the 1 acre lot, it's about recreation. Now, the interesting thing is, so part of what we can do on these modifiers is like if they were saying the 1 acre lot, but then like the purpose of me wanting the 1 acre lot was I want to go out in the backyard, be able to throw the baseball around, shoot have a basketball court, I want to have all this stuff that we could do. Part of what you may want to ask the person is, well, so you mentioned this 1 acre lot, and it sounds to me like it's a lot of it is for like going out and having fun and doing stuff, but what are your feelings about the maintenance that you're going to have to do on it? See, now if somebody said to me, well, like, the 1 acre lot, like that's going to be a lot of maintenance. I mean, how do you feel about the maintenance of a 1 acre lot? I would have been like, oh, I didn't really think of that. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to spend my Saturday mowing the lawn. Right? I'd rather have somebody else do it. But in which case, maybe that's the answer is you hire somebody to come mow it. That's fine too. But for me, that's the interesting thing is recreation is one of my benefits. It was like I want to be able to just go have fun. Like I want to go into the mountains and go hunting or fishing, and I want to spend Saturdays out with my kids playing baseball. Like I want to go do that. I don't want to be doing yard work every weekend. Does that make sense? So because recreation is one of the things that it is, that would be a time now once you landed on that of like, hey, well, how would you feel about if we just found a park that was close by? Oh, I've never even thought of that. That's even better. I like that idea because now I don't have to take care of it. That makes sense? All right. And then the final, are we on the final one?
Yes.
Okay. And that's health. Health is the 15th benefit. Health is going to be tied to, like, let's say somebody wants a pool. I need a pool in the backyard. Okay, well, what are you going to use the pool for? Yeah, I'm going to be swimming laps, or I go out there and do water aerobics or something. Okay, that's great. So what does having it mean to you? Well, I had a heart attack, and so the doctor told me I got to exercise, but whatever. I mean, you get the point. Or how about this? Describe for me the ideal home. It's going to be a single story. It's going to be blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, so what does having that house mean to you? Well, I have bad knees, so I can't go up and down the stairs. Oh, okay, so it's your health is what's driving this decision. Does that make sense? So that's how, so any question on these 15 benefit words that started off real big and keep getting smaller. I kept realizing I'm going to run out of space if I don't shrink those up. Questions? All right. It's almost 3. Do you want a break or keep going? All right. No, it's fine with me. I'm like, you guys just don't like breaks, so that's good. Okay. Well, so I want to, tell me where you're at in terms of this then. How are you feeling on the process?
It would just take a lot of role playing
Thank you.
Yeah.
And remember, I started this by saying it has a short shelf life. If you don't use this, you'll lose it. And the first thing you're gonna lose is, what's the purpose of it?
Crystallization.
It's to cause crystallization, because nobody's gonna buy until they crystallize. So you gotta get them to crystallize, and until they crystallize, they're not gonna buy. Make sense? Okay. So there's actually a couple of other pieces that I need to add to this. So I'm gonna flip this chart over. I'm gonna give you like more of like a blueprint of this whole process, because so this is the meat of it, but there's a couple of things that you're gonna do at the beginning, and there's a couple, 2 or 3 things you're gonna do at the end. So I wanna take you through those. So I'm gonna give you kind of more of a blueprint of what it looks like first. So assuming that I am just meeting with somebody at the office for the very first time, I wanna start with giving them, I like to call this the bio. So I'm gonna do a bio with them. The bio should last 5 to 10 minutes. Okay? So let me show you what that looks like. So let's assume that Carmina comes into the office. So we've exchanged pleasantries of, hey, you found it, no problem, would you like a drink, all that kind of stuff. We're now sitting down at the office in a conference room, okay? So I'm gonna say, hey, so before we get started, I wanna just tell you a little bit about me. Now on this bio piece, I'm gonna first tell her about me. So I'm gonna start by saying, let me start by just telling you a little bit about me. Now, I'll explain why in just a second, why you're gonna start. But so I'm gonna say, let me tell you a little bit about me. And then I'm gonna talk for 1 to 2 minutes about me. So you wanna talk 1 to 2 minutes about me. And not real estate, just me. Like, meaning I would say, so I'm married, I have 3 kids, I have a 22-year-old, I have an 18-year-old, and I have a 10-year-old. When I'm not working, we love to spend time together at baseball games, typically my kids' baseball games, or we love going up in the mountains and going fishing. We love to travel. We go to Disneyland probably 4 or 5 times every single year. With the kids, we'll occasionally go to Disney World or something. But so can you see what I'm doing? Like I'm telling think of it as you want to give like some bullet points about you. And a bunch of just different, like, I'm married, I got kids, this is what we like to do for fun, this is where I grew up, here's my dream of where I'd love to go, or whatever it is. But you're just going to talk about you for 1 to 2 minutes. So here's what I will tell you. If you don't talk about you for 1 minute, it's not enough. If you talk about you for more than 2 minutes, it's too much. Like, so 1 to 2 minutes. So it needs to be at least 1 minute, but not more than 2. If it's more than 2, they're like boards. Knock it off. So, but if you don't do at least 1 minute, you're not telling them enough about you. Now, the reason I'm going first, and sometimes people would say, well, I wouldn't do that way. I would let them go first. The reason I'm going first is if I tell her, I'm married, I got kids, this is what I like to do, I went to school in this, I have this, blah, blah, blah. What's she going to tell me back?
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, so that book that I told you, Influence, one of the first law, I can't remember if he calls it a law, I'm going to call it a law, or principle. First principle that he talks about is reciprocity. Meaning like, if you give somebody something, they feel like they have to give back to you. So that's kind of what this is whatever I tell her, she's going to tell me back the same kind of things. So the reason I'm going first is because I'm letting her know this is basically what I want to hear. So by whatever I tell to her, she's going to tell me back the same kinds of things. Now, why would I do that has nothing to do with real estate? Why would I want to, hey, let me tell you a little bit about me. Then once I've done that, so 1 to 2 minutes, I'm going to go, that's a little bit about me. Now tell me a little bit about you. And then she's going to tell me back. Now why?
Build rapport.
Yeah, good. So it's, to some extent, it's to get some rapport and to have her kind of see, I'm just a normal person. Like, you don't have to be, I'm not the big bad wolf. You don't have to be afraid of me. And it starts to get like a connection that I can find out a little bit more about her. She knows a little bit about me. Now, also, it's then now, once we're past all of this, it gives us some things to talk about that I can ask questions. So now let me cut off Ed. I'm just kidding. So now remember, I'm saying here it's 5 to 10 minutes long. You want to keep it at that. So now remember, if I'm talking for 1 to 2 minutes and then I'm saying, tell me a little bit about you, she's probably going to talk for 1 to 2 minutes, telling me about her. Yeah, you hope. And if not, then we're going to use some of the skills we talked about in here of the transitional statements and things. And what we would do is be like, hey, you know, as important, as interesting as that is, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. So let's get to while you were here. So, but let it go 5 to 10 minutes, but not longer than that. Meaning, like, if you found a connection of something that like, let's say that I said, and I'm totally making this up, it's not true, but that, like, I said, hey, I went to school at UCLA and blah, blah, and you went to, and you're like, oh, you're kidding, I went to school there, where did you go to school? Like, we might sit and talk about it for a few minutes, and it's fine for 5 to 10, but don't let it go longer than that. Like, it could very easily, that's the only challenge with this piece, it could very easily turn into a half an hour of you guys just sitting chit-chatting, and like I said, you'll want to use a transitional statement to be like, hey, you know, well, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that. Let's get to why we were meeting today. So we'll talk about the other later. Okay? So, 5 to 10 minutes is bio. Once I'm done with that, then I'm going to do the next thing, which is permission. Now remember, so this should take like 2 minutes. Like, it's really not that long. Maybe even 30 seconds, really. But permission. Now remember, I told you that when I got trained in this, I came back from the Bay Area, and I keep saying Bay Area, it was probably really Oakland, but that's technically the Bay Area, isn't it? So, okay. So when I got back, I sat down with my wife and I was like, all right, I got to show you what I learned, because I was there for like 3 days learning how to do all this. And I came back, I'm like, I got to show you this, so watch. So describe for me your ideal home. And remember I said she started doing it, and after a while she was like, this is weird. Like, if somebody did that to me, like, I would be like, hey, that's weird. And I was like, I panicked. So I called up the guy that trained me, and I was like, I was excited. I got home and I asked my wife, like, let me take you through what I've been learning. And she like told me it was weird. And the first thing he said to me, did you get permission? And I was like, it's my wife. I don't have to ask for permission. And he's like, you gotta get permission. So keep in mind, you have to get permission, which you didn't catch it, but when I had Laura come up here, I said, are you okay talking about this? Now that's not the formal permission I'm going to have you do, but in essence, I was asking her for permission to do it, is what I was doing. Does that make sense? Now, so I'm going to give you the script on this, but here's what permission sounds like. So you don't need to worry about writing it down. But well, in fact, I'm going to give it to you 2 ways so you can see what I'm talking about. I'll give it to you the right way first. So in order for us to determine whether or not I can help you, I need to ask you a few questions. Some of them may feel personal, maybe things you haven't considered. Is that going to be okay? Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now listen to it this way. Tell me which one you like better, that one or this one. In order for me to determine if I can work with you, I need to ask you a few questions, and some of them may be personal, maybe things you haven't considered. Is that going to be okay?
The first one's better.
Why? You're right.
It wasn't monotone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you changed the wording.
You changed
Yeah.
the word.
He
I
said
changed.
in order,
What did I say?
you said for me to determine if I can work with you.
Yeah, so notice the 2 words that I changed was, I said, instead of, the first time I said, in order for us to determine whether I can help you. The second time I said, in order for me to determine if I can work with you.
It felt harsh.
Yeah, it feels harder. The first one, and truthfully, this is in order for us to determine. It is just as much about them deciding if they want you to help them as it is for you to decide, do you want to help them? Because I will tell you, there may be times that you sit down with somebody and you say, you take them through this process, and what happens is you go, ooh, yeah, I don't think I want, like, I'm not going to be able to help these people. Like, in which case I would say, hey, you know what? Let me refer you to my friend Tony. He specializes in buyers who aren't going to buy. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. But like, to some extent, like you may figure out like for example, through the process, and we haven't talked about this yet, we're going to. So as I say this, don't say, oh yeah, when are you gonna do that? Because I'm gonna do it. But we may find out that they don't qualify. They have zero money or whatever, like it's, you know, they have horrible credit. I mean, like, you might find out stuff like that to where it's like, yeah, we don't have any money for a down payment. Okay, well then, like, so it truly is, this permission is in order for us to determine whether or not I can help you, I need to ask you some questions. Some of them may be personal, sex, or you, I mean, that's part of why we do that. Like, not that we're going to, like, meaning I'm gonna only go where they take me. So don't worry about that when I say maybe personal. It's, but let me even back up on that. Part of why I'm starting with this, of hey, before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about me, and then I be personal. Like, the reason I'm telling about me and personal things about me is because I'm actually, that's part of that is to set them up for this permission script of, in order for us to determine whether I can help you, I need to ask you some questions, and some of them may be personal. See, they're going to be fine with it because we've already been personal. So when I say some of them are maybe personal, is that going to be okay? They're fine with it because we've already been personal with each other. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes?
So question, do you recommend that you go through this process or blueprint regardless of whether they have been pre-approved or not?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, I would say, for me personally, now I'll let you decide for yourself if you want to do it if they haven't been pre-approved. Me personally, I'll do it all day long even if they've never been pre-approved yet. Now, why? Why would I say that?
Because if they're not now, they might be later.
Okay, good. That's one of the reasons. Why else?
Well, you're building a relationship with them, and like Tony said, even if they're not pre-approved till much later, the credit changes or something, hopefully they won't forget about you.
For sure.
I know why.
Why?
They might have a house to sell.
Okay, good. That's another reason. So good. Why else? There's still another one.
Future client?
Okay, good, which is really kind of the same thing, but why else? Referrals. See, the reason I'm okay with doing this, you're gonna set yourself apart from everyone out there. So it's worth the time, which you're gonna see the timeline here in a minute, once we finish building this blueprint. But I'm okay with doing it with somebody who hasn't even been pre-approved yet. Personally, I'm okay with it. If you decide, nope, I'm only doing it if they're pre-approved, that's fine. You decide, whatever. But I'm okay with it because what I know is I'm gonna create somebody who will be a referral source for me forever. Because I'm gonna set myself apart to where they're like, no, Tony's awesome. Like, I'll refer everybody to him. So it's up to you. Okay. All right, so permission. Once we've done permission, the next thing, this section right here is what I like to call filling the grid, the directives, okay? So I'm gonna call it grid here. In fact, actually, let's call this whole thing as the grid, okay? So, because we've already talked about this, so we don't need to go through that. But so this, describe for me your ideal home, I'm in Atlanta, which I didn't, I'm not sure I made this clear enough, so let me make sure. Back here, I talked about, once we have them rank them, I'm gonna jump into modifiers. We did number 1 of asking modifiers. So picture yourself in the kitchen, tell me what you see, who's gonna use it, where's it gonna be, what's the layout, what kind of this, what that, what did, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what does having that mean to you? Once we landed on love, then I would come over into this box and I would write love. Then I'm gonna say, okay, now let's talk about number 2, which was the master. And then I'm gonna say, so picture yourself in the master, tell me what you see, then who's gonna use it, where's it gonna be, how often, what kinds of blah, 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 all the same stuff, make sense? Then I'm gonna say, so what does having that master mean to you? She's gonna either say a benefit word or talk around it, and then I'll summarize it if she talks around it and land on a benefit, and then I would write the benefit word there. Does that make sense? So I didn't close that loop. I want to make sure that made sense. Okay? So how long do you think it would take to do this, describe for me your ideal home, get all that stuff, take them through this, here, for 2 or 3 items, how long do you think that would take?
25 minutes.
Okay, good. So here's what I usually say, what?
15?
So I usually think about 15 minutes per person. So I usually would say here, just like maybe 30 minutes, and that's probably even a little high, because if it's a husband and a wife, you're probably gonna be at max 30 minutes. But yeah, it could be that it's your 10 to 15 per person or something, you know? So it might be 20 to 30 minutes there. Make sense? Now, once I've done that, the next step in this blueprint, so I start with the bio, then I'm gonna do permission, I'm gonna fill the grid, I'm gonna go drill down on it, I'm gonna get all those things. Once I've done that, then the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call it here, let me tell you, which is gonna be, again, probably 2 minutes. But this is another script, okay? Now, let me show you what it looks like. Oh, actually, well, we could do it either way. I actually should have thrown one other thing in there, but we can do it after and it'll be fine. So, well, let me throw it in here. So I'm gonna call it money here, but no, these two really could be interchangeable. I typically do the money one first, so let me do that. So let's assume now, so I started with the bio, I got permission. In order for us to determine whether or not I can help you, I need to ask you some questions. Some of them may feel personal, maybe things you haven't considered. Is that okay? Yes. Great. Describe for me your ideal home. She describes it. I then say, give me the 2 or 3 most important. She does. Which one's number 1? Which one's number 2? Take number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Okay. Laura, wow, I got a great picture of what you're looking for in the home. I'm confident we're going to be able to find you a property without any issue at all. Now, how do you plan to pay for that? Now, what is the answer? There's only going to be one of 2 answers. What are they? How do you plan to pay for it?
Well, you're either gonna finance it or you have cash.
That's right. So it's either finance or cash. If she says cash, what do I want?
Proof of funds.
A proof of funds letter. So I'm saying that more for you guys that are newer. Like when they say it's cash, great. I'll go start looking for properties. I need to get a proof of funds letter. Now, on the proof of funds letter, we either want a bank statement that's crossed out any of their account information but has their name on it, or just the other thing that would be sufficient is a letter from the bank that says they have funds in excess of. Because meaning maybe they have $100 million and they don't really want you to know that, and they're saying, hey, I'm going to buy $1 million house, but I don't want to hand you a bank statement that shows $100 million in it. So instead, that you just have them write a letter that says, from their bank, that says so-and-so has funds in excess of $1 million. That's good enough. That you can hand to a seller of, here's the letter from the bank that says proof that they have over $1 million in it. So that's where, if they say it's cash, I want a proof of funds letter, and great, how much did you want to spend on this house? So if we haven't asked yet, I want to find out how much they want to spend. Make sense? Now, if they say we're going to finance it, then what do we want?
Pre-approval letter.
A pre-approval letter. So great, who have you talked to as far as getting pre-qualified? Well, nobody. Great, let me have you talk to somebody at CSMC or whatever, So I'm going to get them in touch with the lender. Now, here's what I recommend for you guys. Even if they say, well, I've already been pre-approved with fly-by-night mortgage, you might want to say, hey, that's awesome, you can use whoever you want, but I'm going to have you talk to my lender too, just as a backup. You can compare rates and all that, but then also they'll be there just as a backup in case fly-by-night disappears overnight. That's why I always say fly-by-night mortgage. So, does that make sense? So I want to find out about pre-approval or cash and nail that down right here. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go into let me tell you how I work. Now, remember I said to you, getting somebody to sign the buyer broker is really easy if you do it at the end of this process. Here's why. What happens is now that I've taken them through this, they should feel like, wow, this person really listened to me, they understand me, I really like them because you listened so well. Then I'm going to do this let me tell you how I work script, which I'll give you this. So what I'm going to do is this, I'm going to say, so Laura, let me tell you how I work. So I'm going to look at every home in the market in your price range. but I'm only gonna show you the ones that actually meet your needs that we've talked about. So in my experience, I'll have to look at 10 houses to find one that would work for you. So what that means is, if when we go out and look at homes, we go look at 3 or 4, what it means is I will have previewed 30 to 40 homes before we even go out and look at those 3 or 4. I'm willing to do that and commit that time, provided that during the time we're working together, you'll commit to working exclusively with me, okay?
Yes.
And what they're gonna say to that is, oh yeah, of course. Because you've already taken, let me really drive this
You're
point.
already invested.
Yeah, let me really drive this point home, just to make sure. I've created some huge amount of value with these people by the time we get to that. So when I say to them, hey, let me just tell you how I work. Like, I'm gonna go out and do all this work for you, provided that and notice what I said, during the time we're working together, you'll commit to working exclusively with me. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, no problem, great. I've got an agreement that just states that in writing, I just need you to sign that says that when you buy a house, you're gonna use me. That's really all this is saying.
Is that scripted here, or are you gonna?
No, I'll get it to you.
Then if they say no.
I don't know, I've never had them say no. But I get the fear.
No.
So let's role play it. So Lori, in order for us to, let's start with permission there. Let me tell you how I work. I'm gonna show you every home in the market, but I'm gonna show you every house in the whole market. I'm gonna look at every home in the market, but I'm only gonna show you the ones in your price range that meet your needs. So what that means is that if we go out and look at 3, and I'm saying this wrong now, but I just realized, but it's still the same concept. What that means, if we go out and look at 3 to 4 houses, in my experience, I'm gonna have to preview 10 to 1. So I'll have to look at 10 to find one that works for you. So what that means is if when we go out, we're gonna look at 3 or 4, I'm gonna preview 30 to 40. Like, I wanna really make it like, I'm gonna work hard. So what that means is, like, if I'm gonna go do that, I just wanna know, and I'm willing to do that, provided that during the time we're working together, you'll commit to working exclusively with me.
I think I'm probably gonna think about that.
Oh, really? So what is there to think about?
I might have to check out other agents and see what they have to tell me.
Oh, yeah, please do. Now, if they said that, especially since I just took her through this, 100%, you should go do that.
Okay.
Now, but ultimately what I want to do, let me tell you, if somebody says no after you've taken them through this, I'm hesitant to even want to sign it with them at all.
Or maybe you didn't connect.
Because you've
Could
created
be.
so much value.
But you should have created so much value on this, that if you are hesitant, for me, the only reason you would be hesitant is you had some other agent that said, go have them show you houses and then I'll write the offer. So to me, if honestly, if they are hesitant on that, I would be like, really? Like, so what are you concerned about? So keep the role play.
Let me see. Well, because I hate to have agents that I call them and they never call me back.
Gotcha.
And then I'm sitting around waiting for
Okay.
my house right now.
Yeah, totally understand that. If I were you, I'd fill the notice. If I were you, I'd feel the exact same way. Now, so let's do this then. Let's put an addendum to it that just says if you call me and I don't call you back within 24 hours, you can get out of this contract.
Okay.
Sound good? Like, so for me, I just want to find out, because if that's what it is, fine. Let's put that in the agreement. If you call me and I don't get back to you within 24 hours or 12 or whatever. Now, here's the other thing that I will do. Let's do that. I had a bad experience once. So what are you worried about in terms of signing this?
I had a bad experience at one time.
Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry for that. That had to be frustrating. So let's do this then. Let's sign it for 2 weeks. And then that way you're only committed to me for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, if you feel like, hey, yeah, he's doing a good job, we'll extend it. And if not, you're not committed beyond 2 weeks. If they still said no to that, then you either decide. I could say, great, well then I'm gonna need you to at least sign this for every property we go look at. Because what I don't want to do is have you using me to go out and show you and then you're gonna write the offer with Tony. Oh no, I'm not planning to do that. Great, then I at least want you to sign this every time we go out and look at properties. I at least just want to know, if I show you these houses, you're gonna use me. I mean, I think that's fair, isn't it? So, okay, make sense? On that, okay. Next, so after the let me tell you how I work, and or money, whichever way you're gonna do it, then the next one is what I call the appointment script, okay? Now, let me show you what this looks like. Now, the purpose of this one, the purpose of this script is to set them up, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but to set them up for when we go out and look at houses, okay? So what that's gonna do, what I'm gonna do is this. So I'm gonna say, okay, so Laura, so you're gonna work on getting that proof of funds letter for me. I'm gonna go out and start previewing properties. So when do you think you can get that letter to me, did you say?
Next couple of days.
So, okay, so what, so today's Wednesday, so by Friday, so I'll start previewing properties, you'll get that to me by Friday. Provided we have it on Friday, how does Saturday sound to go out and look at houses?
Sounds great.
So I'm setting up the appointment, now watch this, so really, this is really after setting the appointment script. So we've just set an appointment for Saturday, so now watch what happens. I'm gonna say, all right, so on Saturday, Laura, when we go out to look at houses, we're going out to find you one that you can buy. So what I mean by that is after every single house we go and look at, when we walk out of the door, I'm gonna ask you, do you wanna buy this house? Now, I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm not asking that to try to pressure you to buy it. It's meaning, a no is just as important to me as a yes. When I ask you that, do you wanna buy it? A no means just as much as a yes to me. I just wanna make sure I'm not wasting your time showing you properties that don't work for you. So that's the reason I'm gonna ask. So don't feel pressured when I ask, but at the same time, recognize we're going out to find you a house, so make sure you bring your checkbook, because we're gonna find a house for you, okay? Now, what have I just done?
You closed, you like sealed that we're going,
gonna
this
buy
is,
a house.
we have an agenda, we're gonna buy a house.
Okay, good, so I set it up that we're going out to find a house, we're not going out to look, right? We're going out to find a house for you. The second thing that I just set myself up for is to, remember we talked on day one about future pacing? In essence, I kind of just future paced her because I said, after every house I'm gonna ask you, do you wanna buy it? But a no is just as important to me as yes, so don't feel pressure. I just wanna make sure I'm not wasting your time. Now, watch what happens. Saturday comes. You and I go out and look at a house. We walk through the house. We come out of the house. So, is that one you would wanna write an offer on?
No.
Now, is she feel pressured that I'm asking that? No. So, but I've set myself up to be able to close without her feeling, now I don't have to be scared. Because usually this is what happens with agents. They come out of the house, so what'd you think? Yeah, it was okay. All right, let's go look at the next one. Like, they never close. So I've set it up to where I can close. So now I can walk out, hey, do you want to write an offer on this one?
No.
No, okay. Well, great, let's go take a look at the next one, and then we'll talk about what didn't work on this one. So we go to the next one, we come out. So is this one you'd want to write an offer on?
Yes,
Oh, really? Should we go do it?
let's do it.
Then bam, let's go to the office and write an offer, like, versus others, what do you think? I liked it. All right, well, let's go look at the third one then. What do you think? I don't know, like, so notice by doing that script, hey, when we go out,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you after every, you should do this no matter what. Tell every client, hey, when we go out after every house, I'm gonna ask you, do you wanna buy it? And I'm not trying to pressure you, I just don't wanna waste your time looking at houses that wouldn't work. So I'm gonna ask, a no is just as important to me as a yes. But just know I'm gonna ask, okay?
Yeah, you really, you set up the day ahead of time. It's a very definitive day. This is the template, and a yes is, or a no is
Just as important as a yes, so don't feel bad if you say no. I'm not trying to pressure you. I don't want you to feel pressured. I just don't wanna waste time showing you properties that don't work. So do you wanna buy it?
Yes.
Great. Now, what if they say, I don't know, maybe. So let's do it. So we come out of the first house. Do you wanna write an offer on this one?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, well, that's fine. Maybe works okay. We can talk more about it. Let's go take a look at the next one. So we come out of the next one. Would you wanna write an offer on this one?
Yes, this one's.
No, give me a maybe on it.
Oh, no, maybe, don't know.
Okay, so not sure on this one either, but maybe. If you had to choose between the first one and the second, which would you choose?
The first one.
Okay, then I'll crumple up the MLS printout of the second one and throw it in the back seat of the car. But in essence, I'm saying, okay, number two's gone then, because you like the first one better. So I'm kind of just helping her narrow it down to, yeah, so, okay, so now let's go look at so I might even say, if you had to choose, which one would you choose? First one. Do you wanna write an offer on the first one? I don't know, I'm still not sure. Okay, great, let's go to the third one. Come on, do you wanna write an offer on this one?
I'm not sure.
Okay, if you had to choose between the first one and this one, which one would you choose?
This one.
This one, okay, so good, let's get rid of the first one. So, do you wanna go write an offer on this one?
No, I still wanna look.
Okay, well, I only have one more today, let's go look at it. So we go look at it. You wanna write an offer on this one?
I have to think about it.
Okay, well, if you had to choose between the third one and this one, which would you choose?
Back to the first one.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Okay, so should we go write an offer
I'm a
on?
woman.
I know. Funny you say that. I remember
Not
as
really,
a kid.
I am a woman.
No, I know you. That's funny. I would have never guessed. So, my mom, I remember as a kid driving in the car. We were going somewhere in the car, and I asked her something, and she was like, "No," and I was like, "Hey, you already told me yes. You can't change your mind." And she's like, "I'm a woman. We can change our minds." So, like, when you say that, it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
That was like a traumatic experience. I was like, "You told me yes, and you can't change your mind." "Yes, I can. I'm a woman." And I was like, "Oh, all right." So, anyways, okay. So you want to go back and write the first one? Say I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, great. Let's do this. Let's go back to the office and sit down and talk about what didn't work. Because the last thing, here's what I'm doing, guys. I keep using this over and over and over and over and over and over. Is that enough overs? I don't want to waste your time. I keep coming back to this with them. I'm just going to say, look, so you don't want to buy any of them? That's totally great. I understand, but look, I apologize. I feel bad. Because I really, my plan was to only bring you out to properties that would work that you'd want to buy. So I apologize. Let's go back to the office and talk about what didn't work so I don't do that again. See, I'll take the blame. Like, it's my fault that you didn't buy, so let's go make sure that the next time out that doesn't happen. So then we go back to the office and I'd say, tell me what didn't work, because last thing I want to do. Now, see, my goal on all this is I don't want to have to keep showing properties over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to go back to the office and go, okay, tell me what didn't work. We got to fix it, and I'll take the responsibility. I take it as, hey, obviously I didn't get as good a detail as I should have gotten, so I apologize, because what last thing I want to do is waste your time going out and looking at properties that you don't want to buy. So let's talk about it. So what didn't work on these properties? And then bam, I'm right back in here. So tell me what didn't work. They start telling me what didn't work. Okay, so really, and then that's when, like I said, they'll say, well, I loved everything about this on the first house, but the second house was, it had this. If I could find one that had the combination, I'm buying. Okay, so great. So really what you're saying, then I need to go find, what you're telling me is the kitchen was great on the first one, but the master was the better on the second one. If we could find one that had that kitchen with that master, you're good? Yeah, okay, great. Let me go see what I can find. And then now I go to work to try to find that, and then I'm going to, hey, let's go take a look. Now, the other thing that will happen along the way with all this is they're going to be online searching properties, and they're going to call you, hey, I found one to go look at. What you want to do, though, is pull it up and look at it, and look at it through the eyes of this. And I want to say, hey, Lark, if you want to go see a house, I'll go show you any house out there on the market. You just let me know. But let me tell you why I didn't select that one as one of the ones we went to look at. Because blah, 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 blah. Like, you told me you wanted lots of light, and when you look at those pictures, that kitchen has even less light than the ones we looked at the other day. Are you sure you want to go see it? And they may say, yeah, let's just go see. Or they go, yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, let's not go. Okay, good, because I didn't want to go show you if you're not going to buy it. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's kind of, this is what the process of this looks like. So, I mean, this money script was like maybe 1 minute. This one's, again, you might be 2 minutes on that. Like this whole process should be 45 minutes or less for you to take somebody through it, even if it's a husband or a wife. So are you good on this? What questions?
Where would you ask, like, I know, but we live in such a big area, where they like to concentrate, like, would you want
Excellent
this
question.
Splenda, Decorita, whatever?
Yeah. Excellent question. So, on this, a lot of times they'll tell you, here's what I'll tell you. When you're filling the grid, remember before lunch, I was asking you guys about like why we don't have things filled in right here, like kitchen, bed, bath, blah, blah, and what was the reason we don't?
Because those are
Yeah, we don't, if you have it written there, you're gonna ask them about it, and it might not be important to them. So the only thing to ask in here, if they don't bring it up, so let me, when I do this, describe for me your ideal home, and they're describing it and helping me understand what they're looking for in a home. The only thing I'll ask them if they don't bring it up as part of this, but I usually honestly will wait until right at the end of filling the grid. I'll say, hey, Laura, I've got a great picture of what you're talking about and looking for in a home. The only thing we haven't talked about is where is it gonna be? So what's the location gonna be? So I try to wait and see if they're gonna bring it up. If they never do, then right here at the end of the grid, I'm gonna say, got a great picture of what you're looking for in a home, where's it gonna be at? And then at that point, she'll say, oh, it needs to be whatever. So yeah, excellent question. And then from there, I can say, great, how do you plan to pay for it? And then she'll tell me, and then I can go, great, let me tell you how I work. I'm gonna go out and look at every home on the market in your price range, but I'm only gonna show you the ones that meet your needs. In my experience, I'm gonna have to look at 10 to find one, which means if we go look at 3 to 4, I'm gonna have to preview 30 to 40. I'm willing to do that, provided during the time we're working together, you'll commit to working exclusively with me. Yes, okay, great, I got an agreement that states that in writing, you need to sign. Okay. What other questions?
What if the area they're looking at and the money that they have available, you know that there's not a match?
That's what I affirmed to Tony. So, meaning like that they don't qualify for.
Right, so the homes in the area are 750 and they have up to 550.
They're, oh yeah, good, perfect. And then here's what I would do. So I'd say, you know, based on what you were telling me, Ed, I think we're gonna have to evaluate this. So let me show you what I mean. And then I would sit down at the computer with you. So if I'm in an office and there's a computer in the conference room, I'm gonna say, let me show you. I would go into that area, I would plug in the specifics and that price range and see in the last year how many houses sold that matched their criteria. And when it pops up 0, I would say, here's the challenge. Like, I totally get that that's what you want and that you're qualified up to 750, but in the last year, or I mean 550, in the last year, the cheapest house that meets your criteria sold for 750. So it's a couple $100,000 above. So, what do you want to do?
What are next?
I mean, that's where I would say, okay, so how sold are you on you have to be in that area? Which, that is the, in order for us to determine whether or not I can help you, that's exactly what I'd be just like, what do you want to do? Well, we want to buy in that area for that price. Surely something will come along. Yeah, maybe. But in the last year it didn't. Let's look at 2 years ago. Now maybe prices have gone up enough that 2 years ago it was, but probably not that much, would it? I mean, I don't know, but I would look at, oh wow, look at that. Even in the last 2 years, nothing's come up. So it's possible that something will, but.
Because I can see that being a conversation, especially here in Southern California.
Yeah. That's how I would handle it, is let's take a look in the last year how many have sold. Now, let's say there's one. I would say, okay, well, it looks like there's one in the last year. I mean, like, how quickly do you need a house? That's where I'd go next. Well, we can wait. Okay, but here's the other thing I know. If I see that one, are you prepared to write an offer on it without even going to look? Because if one comes up at that price, there's gonna be tons of people bidding on it. So this is the future pacing. You gotta be prepared to like jump. Like when I call you, I'm gonna say, I'm sending you an offer, and then we can go look at the house.
Could we also do like, tell me about why this neighborhood's important to you, and then find them also, I know this one has very similar.
Yeah, sure, yeah, for sure, you could say, what is it about that area, and yeah, you could try to do that to see.
Or if that area is so important to them, maybe they're willing to.
Well, and yeah, thank you. So that, to some extent, you might say, which is more important, the price or the area? Because as you can see, you know, do you have a family member, could parents give you a couple $100,000 to do it? I mean, is there something, if you just have, but the good news is, notice, we're figuring all that out in 45 minutes, not like show them running all over showing properties, and does that make sense? So yeah, excellent question. That's the idea of this is, in order for us to determine whether or not I can help you, I need to ask you questions. And so great, you know, doesn't look like that exists. So like, so the moment that they're telling me price and I'm going, before you leave, let's jump on the MLS and just do a little bit of searching together to see if even in the last year, because my experience is you're not gonna find anything in that price range in that area. But let's check and see. But I've just found sitting down with them and showing them on that on the computer, it becomes a reality of like, look, I put in this minimum criteria, doesn't exist. So we either gotta change areas or figure out a way to get you qualified for more.
Or change criteria.
Or change the criteria in that, yeah. So, good. What else? All right.
Well, I have a question, like, do you, like this blueprint that we've gone through, is there like, how many agents use this? And what are their success rate with it?
Great
You know,
question. Very, very few, meaning like honestly, if I'm being honest, very, very few of you will even do this. I know, sorry, not you, you will. You will. Tony will. No, I'm just kidding.
Tony will.
I take the sleep while drunk today.
I'm just teasing.
Maybe
But
it was money.
I would, honestly, I think very, very few, number one, very, very few people have been trained in it, first off. But two is, and I just have come to accept it, it's just life. Like, meaning, for example, that one of the things that I'm gonna teach you guys tomorrow, when I learned that piece, the guy that taught it to me was different than he's taught me a lot of this other stuff, but the guy that taught it to me said, I'm gonna give you the best marketing idea for your SOI ever, and I'm gonna give it to you guys tomorrow. But I'll tell you what he told me. Most of you are not gonna do it. I'm gonna give you of everything we've talked about so far this week, tomorrow's gonna be the best. The best. But you're not gonna do it.
Yes,
What am I saying?
I said, yes, I am.
I bet
Good.
you're saying
Well-
that because it's gonna take work and practice.
Practice.
Not really.
Well, why do you say we won't do it then?
Yeah.
Because I'm
Experience tells me you're not going to.
So why
Just
wouldn't
experience
I do
tells
it?
me that you won't do it. I don't know. I wish I knew. Now, I did the same thing as what Lori said. When I heard it, when the guy told me, I said, like, I was like, I don't know even what it is, but I'm gonna do it. And I did, and he was right. It is the best thing you could do.
Yeah. And see, with such as newbies, you're working with like clay, we don't.
That's
know
why I
anything
love
better.
teaching you guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear tomorrow why people don't use it though.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I don't
Do you
know.
think it's just they get
Maybe a lot
bad?
They're lazy.
don't know.
I guess, no. Because I'm gonna train you in it. I'm not saying you won't, but I'm gonna train you guys in it, and I'll be shocked if more than 2 of you do it.
Okay, you have to take us to
How long
dinner.
did it take you to?
Done. I'll do that.
How
Huh?
long did it take you to learn all this by heart the way you're doing this?
Oh, excellent question, actually. We had, so, Laura kind of at lunch, right at lunch, kind of almost, didn't ask that question, but asked basically along the lines of that. Though, I probably should have started on Monday with this. The whole reason that I do training on this now was what happened was I was at a competitor and when I started, and I got to where I had it figured out, meaning I told you guys the story about once I started doing 1 appointment a day, my business just rocketed. So I felt like I got this figured out. Like, I'm not staying at this company, they're too expensive. I'm going over to a company where I just pay a monthly fee. So I left and went to this monthly fee company. And while I was there at this monthly fee company, my income went, like, it just, like, from day one, it started to decline. Like, but I didn't notice it till about 6 months into it. I was like, holy crap, I'm not making the money I was making. And so I kind of like stopped and was like, what, okay, I like stepped back to be like, okay, what's changed? Oh, well, I switched companies, that could be one thing. And so I analyzed it. Now, part of it is, I think I told you guys that I tried working from home. You asked me that, right? Because I was trying working from home. Well, part of what changed was I was working from home, and I already told you, like, my wife would be like, I'm taking the kids and going to a movie. I was like, well, I want to go to a movie. Like, versus, like, right, she could be at a movie right now with my kids, I don't know. And same with when I'm at work. Like, if she left and went to a movie, I found out after I got home, oh, I took the kids and went to a movie today. Oh, that's cool, what'd you go see? You know. so that's part of it, but more so than anything else, that was a piece of it, but more than anything else is I took myself out of a culture that was conducive to all of this stuff and put myself into a culture where like, nobody really cared. And as a result of that, I quit doing all the stuff that worked. So for me, what happened actually is the person who was in charge of the training program at that company called me one day and said, actually it was after 6 months, she called me and said, I could use some help in the training program, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in helping you out. So it would have just been like a part-time helping out thing, just because I thought I would like it. But we negotiated, and here's the interesting thing. We got to within $1,000, not even $1,000 a year, but like $1,000. And I was like, well, like if you guys aren't willing to do that, then like I'm not coming over. And they were like, well, if you're not willing for $1,000, really, you're not going to come? I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Like I'll stay here and do what I'm doing. And so it fell apart. But then a year later, she called me again and was like, hey, I really need some help again. Would you be interested? And I was like, well, depends. Are we going to be able to work out this $1,000? And she's like, yes, 100%, we'll work it out. Now, the truth was, at that point, I was kind of like, I'll do it even for that $1,000. So anyway, I went over there and I started just helping with the training. Now, the reason I wanted to go and get involved and help with the training of this is because I quit, when I left and went over to this other company, I quit doing all of this stuff. Like everything I'm training you in, I used in my business, but I quit doing it all, which is why my business started to go down. And so I was like, I gotta get that so ingrained in me that I won't forget it and lose it. So that's the only reason I got involved in helping with the training, was because I was like, I gotta get that so ingrained in me that it just is who I am. So I came and started helping with it. Well, I started helping with it, and then 4 months later, the lady that was in charge of the training came to me and said, I'm gonna quit, do you want my job? And I said, no. But I didn't want it because I was still selling real estate full-time and just helping out occasionally at the trainings. So for me, it was kind of like, I'll take a cut in pay to go do what I'm doing now, is what was in my head. Is I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then this is what part I was telling Laura. I went home and told my wife, and I was like, hey, like they hit me up to do this full-time. And she was like, you should do it. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, we'll make less money if I do that. And she was like, I know, but I think you'll love it. And I was like, yeah, maybe. So anyway, she convinced me. She's like, just do it for a year. So when I first took on and started doing the training, all this stuff, honestly, it was a selfish reason. It was, I wanted to do it because I wanted to get it so ingrained in my business that I would never lose it again. And so I started doing it with the intention of 1 year later I would quit and just keep selling real estate. But after doing it for a year, I was like, I kind of like this. Which is what my wife said. I know, that's why I told you that you should go and do it, because I was just like, I like doing this. So after a year, I decided I'm going to keep doing it till it's not fun anymore. And I'll tell you, when it's not fun anymore, I'm out. Like I'm done. So, but it's still fun. So.
Does your son know how to do it?
Is that how he practices his business? That's fine.
What did I say? Remember what I said? Did they ask me that too? Does your son do all this? I'm like, here's the challenge with your kids. Like, I'm dad. Like, what? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, yeah. Now, I will tell you though, in the last year, he has told me a few times, like, I'm like starting to realize, like, you know a few things. So I would say parts of it he uses, but it's really back to what I said before. Like, what I'm going to teach you guys, there's 2 things left we're going to work on tomorrow. The SOI piece is, I'll tell you right now, if you will do it, if you will do what I'm going to teach you with SOI tomorrow, in Utah I usually say, I will guarantee you a 6-digit income. Here I will tell you, I'll guarantee you a $250,000, at least, probably $300,000. If you will do it, it will work. 100% is guaranteed, just like 2 + 2 is 4, guaranteed always, right? If you will do it, it'll work. But with that being said, most of you are not gonna do it. And it's not hard.
That's the best part.
Yeah, it's not hard, but, and I'm not saying that to try to be depressing or anything, my experience tells me, to some extent, I'm trying to throw down the gauntlet on you, to have you be like, I'm doing it, I don't care what you say. To some extent, I am kind of trying to get you to do that, but also, experience tells me, you're not gonna do it. And it's sad, because I did do it in my business, and it does work, and it's guaranteed to work, and it's not hard. That's the good news.
So why did you stop it? Just laziness or?
Why did
Like
I?
you said, the
yeah.
culture.
Mostly it was culturally. When I left and I tried to work from home, I didn't have the support of other people around. My manager, the manager that I had when I was at the company when I learned it and everything, was supportive of. Like she knew to ask me every day, did you get your appointment today? Have you gotten an appointment today? Like, honestly, so Jeannie, if you're gonna be a manager someday, you should, every time you see any agent, ever, the question should be, did you get an appointment today? You did? High five, good job. There's a few other things too. But like, that should be the question you ask every day of every agent. Did you get an appointment today?
Yes.
Okay, good. And if they say no?
Go get one.
Yeah, you better, you go get, like, your job is to get an appointment, go get it. Like, so to some extent, that's what hurt me, was like, even though I had my wife to ask me, did you get an appointment today? Like, at that point, though, she was quit worrying about it, but like I said, she figured it out pretty quickly too, of like, hey, maybe you better not come to the movie, and maybe you better stay home and get an appointment. I was like, no, I can get an appointment after the movie, and then I wouldn't, you know. But honestly, for me, the biggest thing was, and it was just me, maybe it'll work for you, but working from home did not work for me. I just couldn't do it. Like, I just have learned, like, I have to get out of the house, because it's too easy to, and like I said, even I think I told you guys, well, even just my wife would be like, I'm gonna run to the store, I'm leaving the kids with you. Right? Yeah, I mean, and then she's gone to the store for 2 hours, and Dad, help me this, Dad, help that. So-and-so's not nice to me, and you know, and you end up doing that stuff.
She went to the store.
You what?
Oh, well, she went to the store.
Yeah, exactly.
Manicure,
So-
pedicure.
Anyway, Kay, more than you wanted to know for the last little bit there, right? But anyway, okay, so tomorrow, what we're gonna do tomorrow. So tomorrow, we're gonna go through listing presentation. So this is what we would do with a buyer. To some extent, we're gonna do the same thing with the seller. But so tomorrow, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the seller presentation. Once we're done with doing the listing presentation, training you on that, then we're gonna go into the SOI stuff, and I'm gonna give you, I promise you, if you do nothing else that I've taught you all week, if you do that, there's 4 things on that I'll train you in. If you don't do anything else I trained you in, and you do that, you're gonna be hugely successful. You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
To some extent, I will tell you the real reason they don't do it tomorrow.
Why?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
I'm not telling you today. You gotta come back.
We have to come back.
You wanna know, you gotta come back.